All right, folks, welcome to 17 Questions with Bocce, episode 13, with special guest Cassidy. Hey, Cassidy, how are you doing today?
Hey, Bocce, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I mean, I thanks for joining. Folks had told me for the longest time, you got to do some collaboration with Cassidy. You'd get along, and we were talking offline, and I was like, we are two peas in a pod. We are very, very
Absolutely.
alike.
They were telling me the same. They're like, you have to collab with Bocce. And then when we finally did, they were so excited.
Yeah, and
But yeah, I think our approach to things is very, very similar and our outlook to things very similar. Yeah, we were separated at birth, I'm sure.
it feels like it. It's so wild. So the first question is, what lens or perspective do you bring to this case that shapes how you talk about it?
Well, I have an educational background, or a background in education, I should say. And so whenever I watch things, I I like to learn. I love documentaries, and I'm not talking about the 45-minute documentaries. I want the series. I want the eight episodes. I want to by the time I finish that documentary, I want to know absolutely every detail about whatever that documentary is about. That's what I like. And so when I was watching different attorneys that covered the Murdoch case, I would get frustrated because I felt like a lot of them they spoke above their audience.
Mm,
So we can and they would be doing things like, live streaming the court case. So they would pause to explain things supposedly, and that's why you watch. That's why you choose to watch a content creator instead of just live streaming the thing yourself or subscribing to court TV. You want their insight. You want to understand, why did this attorney object to that? Why did the judge rule the way he did? And I found that in even when they would stop to talk, they weren't they weren't helping their audience to learn.
mm,
They weren't answering the questions that everybody had of why did they do that? What does this mean? They were just speaking their lawyers speak, and it was still above people's heads. The same thing about the filings. We're all completely capable of going, especially like with this case, it's on Court Listener, so you don't have to pay for anything. Anybody can go and access the document and they can read it. Why do they come to a content creator? Because they want to understand. Why does it say based on rule, blah, blah, blah? What do all of these words mean? What does this mean? And so when I would be so disappointed watching them speak over their audience
mm.
and and also like not dive into the meat of things. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do because that's what I wanted to hear. I wasn't going to waste my time watching someone that wasn't really going to help me or anybody else. And then I'm getting frustrated and I'm yelling at YouTube like a crazy person. And so I just started doing it myself and just thinking if I can when I approach an episode to prepare, I look through there and I think, what word might not everybody, but somebody not know? What expression? Do they know what this motion means? Do they know what this rule is? And so when I prepared an episode, I came to it with that in mind, an educational thing. I wanted to teach. I wanted to help people, even though I don't know everything by any means, never, profess to, but if I know it and I can share that, then people can have knowledge of their own. And I always feel, and it's kind of going to be the theme to my answers to these questions, that knowledge is power.
Mm,
So prepare educating people so that they, going forward, have something they can take with them and be like, "Oh, I learned what that means. I know what that means." And next time they try to read a motion, they can, "Oh, I understand. I know exactly what this is about." And I love that. I love to be able to do that so that people can learn things for themselves.
yeah. So when people tell you that your content resonates with them, what do you think they're connecting with most?
I think we tend to be drawn to people who are like us.
Mhm.
And one thing I've seen in this community, and I have to say, because I've covered other stories, and even before YouTube, I was on what used to be Twitter, I was on Instagram, I think we find people that are similar, but this community is special. I've never seen such a wonderful community as this one. I think so many of us are similar, and I think one of the things that we have in common is that a lot of us have some sort of trauma as women. More of us than not have had some kind of trauma, um, or in my case, multiple lifetime traumas.
Mhm.
And so, and another thing is we are the see something, say something people. When we see injustice, we have to speak up. We can't stand it. We want to change it. We want to do something. So I think that we're drawn to this case for the same reasons.
Hmm.
And um we're moved by things like empathy and compassion. We saw someone that was being harmed by a powerful person, or we see things people being harmed by a powerful system, and we don't like it. And we want to do something about it. And so I think I have a lot of emotion, I have a lot of passion. When I choose a case to talk about, it's because it has spoken to my heart. It is something that I care a lot about. And so everything I do, and it's not for everyone, and I understand that. That's why I have never in the entire lifetime of my YouTube, I've never asked someone to like a video or subscribe to my channel. I'm like, this is what I do. This is how I like to do it. If you like it, join, come and hang out with me. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. But and see, now I've just lost myself. I don't remember where I was. Yeah, you have to cut that out. But I think it's just it's I'm not just speaking my own feelings. I think the people that are drawn to my channel are people that are coming from the exact same place that I'm coming from. And so we're kindred spirits. We like to speak to people of like minds, or share our feelings with people of like minds.
Yeah. It's so funny when you talked about, like, you don't ask people to like and subscribe. That took me work to get to the place where I would say like or
Yeah,
subscribe, but not like or subscribe. I always say, like, well, if you enjoy this or something resonated with you,
right?
like it, or if you want, and I usually say, if you want to subscribe, if like consider it. Like I never
Yeah,
like I rarely
yeah.
like do it because I'm
I
like,
can
because I don't want people to do it and then they're not even connected with my content. They're not gonna even watch it. So it's like, why would I want you to like subscribe so you won't watch the thing? I want people who resonate with me and the
Yeah,
things that I do. You know what I mean?
exactly. I know exactly what you mean. I could never find a way that I could comfortably say it.
Yeah, it
I
had
just
to come authentically. I
Yeah,
still forget, but I've learned to say it more like in videos. Because what I did find is that people, it's not that people didn't want to like it, and it's not that people didn't want to subscribe. It was literally they had forgotten. And when they
yeah,
hear it, they're like, "Oh yeah, I do actually want to do that."
yeah, yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. It's just I've never found a way to comfortably say it. And also, if you don't like my channel authentically,
Yeah.
don't come here, because then you're gonna have
Yeah.
nasty comments, and I don't want to hear it. Yeah,
Samesies.
yeah. If I
I
I
just
feel like
had one. I just had one.
yeah, and they're hurtful, you know. But yeah, so I feel like if I ask you to do this, then I owe you something. It's just a
Oh,
weird thing to me.
I hate
You
that.
know what I mean? I
Yeah.
find a million ways to go through life to make myself feel uncomfortable. I just don't know just who I am. It's what I do. It's so yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
hear that. You want people to connect with you. Yeah, no. Someone had put up a message today that was like, "Please zoom out," because my videos are always like up here. You know, they're like, "Please zoom out," and I was like, "Please scroll by."
that is the perfect
And then I
reply.
did my channel, so I said, "Speak to the void."
Yeah, and you know what? I hide my channel when someone's been, like, extra nasty, especially if they fight with my subscribers, then that's it.
Oh yeah,
If they're nasty to me, they get a chance. they get a chance. I might say something back and see where it goes from there. But if they fight with my
So
subscribers, it's automatic. You're gone. I'm not gonna have you on here bullying my people. You can't do it.
yeah,
They're my
no.
friends. You know, you're not gonna do it.
Yeah, no, I
But
hear that. We're alike in that sense because I see people always get one chance with me. I'm gonna assume that maybe I'm misunderstanding your intention
yeah,
here because I just
yeah,
wanna give you a shot. But if you confirm it by the second one, you're gone.
exactly.
But sometimes they're gone the first time also, not necessarily even being mean to other folks, but, like, if I'm like, it's if this is your first introduction to me and you're this unkind
Nasty.
and it's your
Mhm.
first comment, like, I see that this is your one comment to me, you're gone as well.
Yeah.
Like, I
Ye
mean, it depends on how, like, how they approach it. Okay, I
exactly.
gotta see, I'm telling you, I gotta cut a lot of this out because this is
It's
not
okay.
important to know.
We're having a conversation. It's okay. Hey, we're
But
both known for our long lives, so this is probably gonna be your longest 17.
like, it's going to be, like, the first 17 questions with Bocce that's, like, 2 hours.
Yep,
No, I
yep.
honestly
I have people ask me almost every day to make some shorter content, and I'm just like, "You know what? There are a lot of people out there that do a really, really excellent job with short content." Just kinda like saying, if you want shorter content, go to a short content person.
yeah,
'Cause I'm
no,
not
oh my word. We are so alike. Because
yeah,
I literally had somebody, like, before when I didn't have the capability to do some editing or whatnot, like, people would say, like, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" And I'm like, "No." Or like, "Can you be this? Can you be that?" And I'm like, "No." But I
yeah,
know another content creator that I can send you to that is exactly what you're looking for, but it is not me
exactly.
because I'm not gonna be all things to all people.
You can't, because one wants
Mm,
this and another wants that, and if I'm not what you're looking for, like you said, scroll by, and I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean,
yeah.
if you're getting frustrated because I'm talking too slow or putting in too many details or talking too long, then I'm just not the channel for you, and that's okay. That's okay. It
We're
doesn't hurt my
so
feelings.
alike.
I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings, but there are so many channels on so many platforms that do short content. It's and like we were talking before we went on air, that, we do this for the joy of it. This is not my livelihood. This is
Yeah.
not how this doesn't support my life. This I do this because it brings me joy. And if I have to start making changes to keep people I'd rather go down to 3 people watching and letting me be myself than
Mm,
having 100,000 that I'm having to trip over myself constantly to try to make everybody happy because it's impossible to make
yeah.
everybody happy. So I've come to a place in my life where if it brings me joy, I will give my time and effort to it. If it stops bringing me joy, then I'll cut it out. There are
Yeah.
enough aggravating things in life to rob us of our joy. Why would we voluntarily take something on that's going to frustrate and upset us or steal our peace? So I'm really it took me way too long to get to this place because I always felt bad. I always wanted to please everybody. I always wanted to make everybody happy, never wanted to hurt anybody's feelings. And it's hard for me still
Mm.
now. But if something is stealing my joy or making me uncomfortable, I'm not going to continue to put up with it. I'm going to cut it out of my life. I'm not going to let it make me unhappy. And now I've gone way beyond what this question even was.
That's it. I mean, I'm gonna be forthright. I'm going to have there's probably a lot of things that we're gonna have to like, I'm gonna have to edit out, not because I don't
Mhm.
think it's interesting or I don't think they would think it's interesting, but because we have to
Way off topic.
stay close to what the question what
Right.
the question is.
Yeah.
But
I
I
I
mean
told you I've named my side quests. I was like, Cassidy side.
No, no, I appreciate because I am also the same. We might that's why I'm joking about like here we're gonna go this length because just the way we
Mhm.
both operate. We'll be like,
Mhm.
and that and that. But yeah, no, I feel you on that. So there's so much that you said that resonates with me because I'm a recovering people pleaser. Well, I've recovered a lot because before I think I couldn't do certain things because I would feel too bad. But
Mhm.
now it's like I have boundaries and I have like
Yes.
and I'm the same way about saying to folks, like, "Look, I'm not here to frustrate you. If you don't like how I operate, like, I'm gonna block you or for your own health because and my own health because I said if because for one, it's just gonna keep me from hitting your page. I mean, that's on TikTok. Over here, I can only
Right.
hide their channel, but because I said one, it will keep you from seeing me. But the other thing is like I don't want to open up my comment section and hear you complaining about something I've already
Right.
communicated I'm never going to change about myself, or or it is part of who I am, you know? So like yeah, now? So, anyways, okay, we
Yeah.
better get back to that.
Boundaries are important, and I think women especially have never respected that or honored ourselves with boundaries. We
Mhm.
are programmed to make everybody around us happy. Society has taught us that we are the nourishers and it's time to for women to recognize, honor yourself, honor your mental health, honor your peace, and keep your boundaries. The boundaries that bring you peace and joy. You have to do it.
Yeah, totally agree. Um, all right. What made you decide to start creating content about Blake Lively versus Wayfarer?
It's so funny because nothing I did before was even remotely like this case.
Mm.
I was working for the longest time on the Murdoch case. And I was working on the Murdoch case, and I don't know how much you know about that, but it was a situation where, a husband and father murdered his wife and youngest son
Oh,
because he was an attorney, and he was from a family that's described as a dynasty. It was generation after generation of not just attorneys, but they were the solicitors of the area, which is like what most of us see as a district attorney. Um, that's who they were. They were extremely powerful, and what inevitably happens when you have too much power, especially when it passes generationally like that, is corruption. And they had strong alliances with people in their area. They're in South Carolina, and the corruption began to seep into all areas, including law enforcement. They have so much in their history. And there were corrupt judges, there were corrupt attorneys, there were corrupt bankers, and they were all cooperating with this. So
mm.
the big stories, because it was such a multi-branched story, there was that murder, but it came from the fact that the guy who did this to his family, he had been stealing millions of dollars from his clients for over a decade.
Oh.
Millions of dollars, and so it was all nobody knew that he was doing this. Well, the son that he ultimately takes out was in a boat accident. He was driving, he was extremely intoxicated, and he killed one of the passengers, this beautiful girl, and so the family was the girl's family was suing the Murdochs, and what was gonna happen, he didn't have the money to pay for this boat crash for the amount of money they were asking. He also had cheated his own insurance company, so he lost his big insurance that could have paid for it. So he was scrambling, like, "What do I do now?" The attorney for the girl's family, he told him, "Well, I don't have any money. I could maybe put together $1,000,000 for you." And he's like, "I know you've got money." This family was jetting around in private jets. They were taking trips all around the world. They had this 100 and I forget how many acres of property. They were driving around in fancy cars. Everybody knew that there was tons of money flowing in this family. So he's like, "What do you mean?" So he tried multiple times to meet with him and come to some conclusion to get more money than just this $1,000,000 he's offering. And finally he said, "You know what? This has gone on long enough. You've played enough games. I know you're just trying to protect your money. I'm gonna do a forensic on your finances." Well,
Right.
that was going to expose these millions of dollars of theft from his clients. He knew that he would lose his law license. He knew that it would disgrace the family. He knew his wife would probably leave him because they had had issues already and she was staying because there was money, kind of that situation. So he would lose her. And in that family, the wives were not allowed to leave. They were threatened, like, his father was cheating, his mother had it, she did leave, and he put her she said, "I'm gonna divorce you." He put her obituary in the newspaper, like a threat. So,
Mm.
people come, they're calling the house the next day to give their condolences, and they're all upset because this woman has died, and she was beloved in the community. She was a teacher, and by all accounts, a much better person than the man she married or the offspring she put out. Um, that was a veiled threat, basically saying, "This is the only way you're gonna leave me."
Mm.
So, I mean, this is the way this family was. So, his wife had stayed, but she was barely hanging by a thread. Like, she was living in their beach house more than an hour away, and he was living in their home nearer to his law office. It was kind of like that situation, and he knew she would that would probably be it once it got discovered what he had done. So he took her out, took out the son who had caused all of the trouble by the boat crash. And, because there was the civil case coming, the lawsuit, there was also a criminal case coming, and his son was most likely gonna go to prison for driving under the influence like that. He was underage, he had used his brother's ID to buy the alcohol, and so it was he was probably going to go to prison. So it was going to completely disgrace the family, and he couldn't handle it.
Mm.
So he did that. So you might want to edit. That's kind of a long telling of that. That has nothing to do with these questions.
I
But
I was thinking what I'm gonna do is I'll do an edit where it's only answering the questions, and
mhm.
anytime we go on our little rabbit trails, I'm gonna do a second video for, like, folks, like, that really do watch us,
Oh
like,
yeah,
as
for the long
as we
content.
are, and it'll be,
Oh,
like, bonus content that's
oh, perfect.
specifically just, like, our side
Our
quests, you
side
know?
quests. Now I have a
Because
partner
then
for my
because
side
then
quest.
it'll still feel very 17 questions with bocce because it still will be focused on the questions themselves, and then they'll
That's
know
brilliant.
we had all this other conversation.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's the perfect solution.
Yeah, but yes. But what made
So
you decide to start creating content about
so
Blake Lively versus Wayfarer?
That was a heavy and dark topic, and then I
Mm,
started a second topic called Dying to be Loved that I had
mm,
only done 3 of those, because when I was covering the Murdoch case, one thing, and it was mostly women saying it, that they kept saying was, "I don't believe he did it because he loved his wife and he loved his son."
mm,
So I looked up the statistics of husbands killing wives and fathers killing children, and I was absolutely mortified to find that every day in this country, 3 of us are killed by our
mm,
partner or ex-partner. Every
mm,
day, 3 of us. And every day, 1 child on average is taken out by one of its parents.
mm,
That's how common it is. And when I saw that statistic, I was stunned. Absolutely stunned. And so I thought, again, with that theme, knowledge is power, I thought in everything in life, we have these disclaimers or we have these warning labels. If something could potentially injure you, you are notified. And that's how we know to not die. Like, don't drink this, you could die. Don't use this machine like this, you could die. But no one is out there telling women, be safer, beware of these signals because every day 3 of you are no longer on this earth because you didn't think this man was capable of this action. But by the statistics, now you know. And I felt like we need to know this. I, as a woman, had lived my whole life not knowing that statistic. We need to know this, not so we like live in fear of our husbands every day, but so that when we find ourselves in the situations where it's more likely to happen, that we can be more cautious and we can be more prepared. And um, so I started that series, and that's a dark topic. It was very difficult because what I would do is I would find the women, because what's happened with it happening so often, not that many women get seen. Maggie got so much attention because the story itself was big, not because anybody cared about Maggie. But most women are in a little bitty paragraph on page 30 of the newspaper, no picture, no story of who she was, just another man killed his wife, la da 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 da, maybe 3 paragraphs at the most, and that's it. It doesn't make news anymore because it's just so common. So I wanted to do a series where I found the woman, found her picture, and honored her life. If she was a mother, how many children did she have? What did she love about life? As whatever it was I could find, and honor her, and then tell her story so that other women could listen to the story. And if they saw the flags that came up in that woman's life and they look and they go, oh, oh, and maybe, just maybe, with the knowledge that this happens this often and these are maybe the red flags you might see, maybe somebody's life could be saved. But between those two topics, they were really heavy. So then I lost a cousin.
Mm.
Sorry. I'm the most emotional content creator. I think I'm always crying. But, and then another one. There were 4 of us that were born the same year on my mom's side because her and her sisters, they, had their babies together. And so 4 of us were born the same year. And 2 of them were suddenly gone way before their time. And I couldn't get past it. So back then I recorded all my content and I would sit down and I would try to do it and I would just be sobbing because there was so much tragedy in it. And even though like what I set out to do, because like what I covered about the Murdoch case was not the murder. It was I when I heard during the trial about all the people that he stole money from, that's the story I wanted to tell because there weren't a lot of people telling that story. There were a million people talking about the murders and a million people talking about the boat crash. I cared about what happened to these people that he stole money from. And then I found their stories, and their stories were so sad. Horrible. And that's a whole nother topic, so I'm not going to get into that. But that was my angle for that particular, that's where I started with that. And then eventually some of the other, as he started appealing and as other cases, because he had federal cases and civil cases, yeah, he had federal, state, and civil cases going. So there were a lot of other cases. So I did eventually speak on the murders as well, but it was all heavy. And when you're grieving, it was too heavy. So I took a couple of weeks off and I thought, okay, I can come back, but I couldn't. And so I thought, okay, here's this Hollywood celebrity. I'd seen one Blake Lively movie, didn't really know her. I knew she was married to Ryan Reynolds. I'd only seen one Ryan Reynolds movie. Oh, no, 2. I'd seen The Proposal and Women in Gold. So I didn't really know them. I'd never even heard of Justin Baldoni because I'd lived in China for so long. So there was a lot of things happening in the world and people, celebrities, I had no idea who they were. And I'm not a celebrity chaser. So um, I thought this would be easy. This will be light. I can just do this. I thought I'll do this for 2 or 3 weeks, get myself together, and then go right back to what I was doing. And then I started reading this stuff, and that part of me that the just hates injustice and hates to see somebody harmed by somebody that because they've got the power to do it. They've got more money, they've got more power, or they're a bully and they're attacking these. And I saw these people and what had happened to Jennifer Abel, and then it just like kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, this is horrible. And then I was in it. I was completely into it. What I thought was going to be just this light little squabble about these accusations, it turned into just feeling like I just had to speak out because this was wrong. And when I was at my parents' house and my sisters were all there, and they are diehard Swifties, so naturally they took Blake's side, and when my first impression was I support women, and so I believed Blake. I thought someone that famous isn't gonna risk their reputation by not telling the truth about something like this, something so important. I thought it has to be true, and I didn't know Justin. I didn't know Jamie, I didn't know any of these people. And when you just read the New York Times article, it was shocking. And when you read her complaint, it was shocking. And then so when I started reading all the others and I was like, "Wow, you're the monster here. You're
Yeah.
the one that harmed so many people. How dare you do this?" So that was it. Like I will eventually go back cuz I started a series in the Murdoch series because I kept hearing about this, like I said, the dynasty, this 100 years of power and how it became corrupted. And I would always hear the same old lines, same old stories retold, no matter how many documentaries got put out. It was always the same stuff said. And I'm like, but I want to know, what do you mean there was corruption? What kind of corruption? What did they do? So I subscribed to this place where I can access newspapers, every newspaper in the country, all the way back to like 16 or 1700s. I mean, it's
Oh,
crazy.
dang.
And the time I took, Bocce, you would not believe the endless hours that I spent going through year by year, searching their names, and whether it was an article about a court case, because they would write in detail what was going on in court cases. So we're talking about a time period in the way back when people didn't have televisions. So they would go to court for entertainment. Or they would read about it in the newspaper if they didn't get to go. So you'd be surprised what was in the newspapers covering the cases and stuff. So whether it be information about a case or their wife had a tea party and these are the people who attended. I got that news article and started patching it together because I wanted to know who were these people? What were these people? What group of society did they move in? Who were their close companions? Because when the corruption started, they were so well protected by these people that they had these tea parties with and celebrated these things with. And so there was like a society page back then that would describe if somebody had a gathering at their home, it did tell you the guest list and even what they served. And so I got to see, okay, they cultivated these relationships with these people. And then later, these people are the very ones that helped them get away with the atrocious things that they were doing. We're talking about this solicitor who's the guy who's supposed to be enforcing the law in his area. And he was running the biggest moonshine, what would you even call it? A moonshine crew? I don't know. Racket, the biggest moonshine racket that was ever seen. And he would use his sheriffs and his deputies and people at the courthouse to keep these moonshiners safe. And the sheriffs would be the ones out there collecting the money from the selling of the moonshine. And when the legit law enforcement that wasn't corrupt was going to run a raid, and they would even stage like fake raids. They would always let the people know in advance, or they would have one lamb for the slaughter, and then they would make sure that that lamb would get away with it in the end. They would arrange something at court to let that person get away. So it was so intriguing and so interesting. So I started a whole series on that because I said, like in the intro, we know how the family fell. Now let's learn how the family rose. So that's what I did. I went back to the very first solicitor and told his story and was making my way through. So I didn't get to finish that because the interruption came like while I was in the middle of making that series. But so I will go back to that once this case is over. But once I got involved in this case, I couldn't. There was just so much happening all the time. There wasn't enough bandwidth to cover this and that. So
Mhm.
that kind of got put on hold. And yeah, so that's how we got here. Kind of incidentally, me not knowing, me looking for, oh, it's just a silly celebrity squabble that I can talk about because it's not dark. It's not going to make me sob into my microphone. It'll be something light while I grieve and get over this and can move on. But it actually turned into something that I felt was so important to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I, I I am surprised half the time that it has escalated to this level. It I feel like it should have been resolved, but it's interesting when money and power and ego and pride kind
Mhm.
of clash together. So the first question from our audience is from Beauty at Sunrise, wants to know, how did you become so knowledgeable about the law?
Once upon a time, it was my career path. Ultimately, I changed and pursued education, for different reasons, but maybe for my emotional well-being even. Um, I saw attorneys at the firm where I worked at, they would just have to swallow things and move on, and I have trouble doing that.
Mhm.
So, I saw a lot of I think well, attorneys become attorneys for different reasons. Some do it just for the money, and some do it because they wanna make a difference. They wanna make a change, and they believe that they can. And, so they come with a heart full of passion, a heart full of good intentions, and then somewhere along the line, I think a lot of them get that just pummeled out of them because they find that they don't have the power to change like they thought they were gonna have.
Oh,
Um, even attorneys who have the God complex, those kind of people, I'm an attorney, I'm better than you. Within the firm, I'm the highest earning partner here, I'm God here. Even the one who thinks the most of himself when he's standing in a courtroom, he's just a speck of dust like everybody else. He's at the mercy of the court. He's at the mercy of the jury. There's so many he's at the mercy of the rules, and really there's so little power you can do. You can be on the right side of the law, and you can come before a judge who's grumpy that day
mm,
and doesn't have patience and doesn't listen and maybe makes an error. You can come before a corrupt judge. There's so many things and there's not a whole lot to do. And we look at it and we're like, "Oh, okay, well you can fix it on appeal and it'll be fine." But appeals, what most people don't realize is that to actually be heard is few and far between, and to actually overturn something is next to impossible. It's not an easy path, and it's not an easy fix to what went wrong in the court. And what you can appeal even is very, very limited. So a lot of bad decisions happen every day in courtrooms across the entire country. And if you keep that burning passion with you and you're facing these kinds of things, you're either gonna have to just let it go and just become the, "Well, that's just how it is," person, which I could never be, or you're gonna live your life in constant frustration and and yeah, I mean, I admire people who can keep going and who keep the fire and who keep the passion in spite of a system that the right person doesn't always win, and sometimes
mm,
it's for a stupid reason, but that's what it is. We have tons of people who are wrongly convicted and they are rotting in prison or have been put to death. I have a good friend, Stephanie Tinsley. I worked with her last summer. I did a little research for her, and she she was amazing. She's married to an attorney. She's not an attorney herself, but at her son's school, she met an attorney that works with the Tennessee Innocence Project, and they started talking because she loves that stuff, and her husband, he's actually the attorney who sued the Murdoch family that started the boat crash situation.
mhm,
So, she's very intelligent, she's very drawn to that stuff, and she wanted to do a podcast herself, and so she was kind of looking for what to talk about, and so she meets this guy, it was like kismet, and they start talking, and she's like, "I wanna do a podcast on this story because it was a wrongly convicted man." And it's an overwhelming amount of work to do this, and they had been trying to get this guy out. I think it's 20 something years he's been in prison. And this man had, like, a 3rd grade IQ, and it's a problem. He's from Memphis, and Memphis, oh my word, the stuff I uncovered for her doing this was crazy. It was absolutely crazy what I discovered is happening there. And, it's one of the most corrupt cities and one of the most dangerous cities in our entire country. And it just I don't know how they'll ever fix it. It's that bad. But so she was telling that story in her podcast, and in the end, I think having the Innocence Project in some of the big name people that were working on it and her podcast, he got his conviction overturned
Mm.
just a couple months ago, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so amazing." And, I forgot why I'm talking about this. Yeah, about law. Okay. Yeah. So, but there are so many miscarriages of justice every day here. And that would frustrate me. That would kill me. So I ultimately switched and became involved in education
Mm.
and pursued that because that's to me that's a joyful career. You give. You just give all day long every day and you give people things that they take with them for their whole lives. It helps them in their lives. And let me see. It's meaningful, it's fulfilling, and I love to create things. I love to make things, and I could express myself with that. The stuff that I did at the jobs that I've had has been so much fun, especially when I worked with little kids. Oh my goodness, it was just pure joy. So I don't have regrets. Even though I keep coming back to it, I'm drawn to it. I feel I feel happier as a content creator. And I feel like we can still I feel like we're doing a lot. Just the awareness. Just like my friend Stephanie with her podcast, what she accomplished is amazing. And I know she didn't do it alone, but she was definitely a part of it because her podcast it went really well. It
Mm.
charted on Apple and it made the powers that be that were deciding whether or not to even give this man the time of day, it made them realize people are watching. And I think that that's important. I think that judges need to know that their decisions are being dissected and watched. It will make them, and that's how the system was set up, especially the federal system. Here's how it was set up from the founding fathers when they made the federal court system, because federal judges are not voted in by the people. Federal judges are appointed by presidents. And it's a lifetime appointment. It's not like a local judge that has to keep running to keep his job, and he has to keep making the people happy to keep his job. And if he doesn't, they're like, get out of here. No, a federal judge is appointed not by his people or his peers, the citizens of his state. No, by a president, and it's nearly impossible to get them out of that with no matter I mean, they have to do something really awful. In the whole history of federal judges, only 8 have been impeached, and it was extreme stuff, like mafia stuff. But what they did to help the situation that it didn't go to corruption, it didn't go to just this unlimited power, is this whole idea of transparency. And And Judge Lyman actually said that when he opened up when I always call it the great unsealing, when he
Mhm.
ruled on why this stuff had to be unsealed, he referred back to those laws, that they were set up so that we, the people, could monitor them. They have to keep things transparent where we can see it because we are the fail-safe. We are what keeps them doing what they should. And, I don't remember why I started that conversation.
And also,
Anyway.
I have to tell you too. I have this light that's right in front of my face because I need to have a light in front of my face. Um, but light in general make my eyes like tired. So and plus, so have that light and having you not have a face there and me trying to like look like I'm looking at somebody, or like
Oh, sorry.
it's like the two together. Anyways, okay. And then on top of it, my throat, there's stuff going on in my throat right now. So like I'm trying to like clear my throat every like whatever. And so I'm constantly gulping
Yeah, I know
and it's
I'm sipping
really
tea, hot
it's
tea,
really
'cause
annoying. But
yeah.
anyways, okay. So we're gonna go to the next question.
Okay.
The next question is from Sharon5538. Would you be willing to share some of your research tips and suggestions with us if we are interested in also trying to do our own research on other legal topics?
I actually really love this question because this is something I always try to show people. when I do my lives, the first thing that I do, and this is what I recommend people do when I get a new motion to look at. I'm so excited. It's like a little present. I go through and I highlight the case law that they've put in there. And you can Google, you just copy and paste from the motion and you can Google it. Don't just use regular Google, use Google Scholar, and you
Mm.
will get better information, more inclined to actual law. You can use that to, if you want to search a certain kind of case, you can use Google Scholar. Court Listener, you can go in and put in parameters of what you, if you want to look up a particular judge's cases or a particular attorney's case or a case that uses this specific word, you can use those. And I highly recommend doing your own research for these kinds of things. So that's one of the big things that helps you understand why the judges, what they rule, what they use. They don't just, because you have opposing sides. You've got one side saying it should be this, and the other side says the exact opposite. No, it should be that. The judge doesn't just sit there, twiddle his thumbs, and go, okay, I like yours better. He's supposed to look at the case law because when they say this is what it should be, and here is the case law to tell you that, he is supposed to look those up or look up some of his own about the topic. And based on that, especially if there's binding authority, something that was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, something that was decided in the Court of Appeals, those are binding to him. He's supposed to consider those first when he rules on something. So getting yourself acquainted with those case law is probably the best research you can do. So yeah, Google Scholar, Court Listener, those are very, very helpful. Please do not use AI. It will not help you. It will make up cases. It will tell you wrong information and will make you believe things that just aren't so. So try to stick to those. Another thing I always try to show people, if they mention a rule, whether it be like the federal rules of civil procedure, that's what we kind of covered most before, but now that we're in this portion, we're in pretrial. Now it's the federal rules of evidence. So it will say according to federal, FRE, blah blah blah. Look that up. It's Cornell puts out a beautiful thing about all of the federal rules. So whenever it mentions that, go look that up. Read that underneath the actual rule because the rules themselves are very basic and simple. But if you go underneath, there's always notes that explain those rules better so that if you learn to do that for yourself, you don't need a content creator to help you understand. You can start understanding these things better. Or if you need it for yourself for some reason, then you've learned how to do that research for yourself.
That I mean, I did not know about Google Scholar, so that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And also, you sound so much smarter than I am. I usually I'm like, "Look, that's a lawyer thing. I'm gonna, like, not be reading this," because I was like, I know the docket in the sense of I can read it, but there's still things that are, like, above me, and I could read those things, but I don't wanna. Like, I'd rather
Yeah.
have the lawyers tell me or, people who seem to get that.
Yeah. And
Because
I've
when I'm
forgotten
interested
so
in it,
much.
I will do it, but if I'm not interested in it, it's hard for me to push through. Um,
Yeah. And I've forgotten so much and everybody makes mistakes. I mean, I think most of the attorneys who've talked about the case have had to come back and say, "Well, I might have got that a little off." It happens to all of us. So, but I always try my best to get the information accurate. And if I mess up, I will post about it later. But but yeah,
yeah.
I love
So
this
the
kind of
next
stuff.
question is from Lisi dot allegedly dot. Oh wait, I'll just say the next question is from Lisi, who's a bocce bestie. She says, unfortunately, you were one of 107 really, content creators subpoenaed
Mhm.
by Blake Lively. Are you comfortable sharing the emotional and financial toll of that? Also, what outcome you would have preferred other than the decision of the judge as moot for the consequences on issuing these types of subpoenas? What would that be?
Okay. I really liked this question too. I talked extensively on my channel when I was going through it. I think for all of us, it was very emotional. It didn't have any financial toll on me because I wrote my filings myself, but emotionally, it was extremely difficult because it was scary. It was scary. It was these law firms, one of which had taken part in Van Zandt, which tells
Mhm.
me there's no bottom. There's no they are willing to do things that they know they should not do and somehow got away with it so far. And then I was more afraid of Blake and Ryan than I was their attorneys because I think they are vengeful, they are
Mm.
vindictive, they don't like to lose. And I had, through this case, I had learned mostly stories that other people were telling of things that they had done to people. And then just seeing what they did to these people. After what they did to Jennifer Abel, and this person wants access to my information, and that
Yeah.
was just to get the subpoena for my information. What would have come next if they had been granted this right to subpoena me? Because the subpoena wasn't actually to us, except for Perez, Andy, Candace, and I think Megan Kelly. Those went directly to them. Ours was just the first step, was Googling or was subpoenaing Google. And then Google, what they were trying to get was our actual who we are, where we are. And then they would have subpoenaed us. And then once you get subpoenaed, you have to comply. You have to. I would
Mm.
have had to hand over whatever Judge Lyman ruled they had a right to. And they were asking for crazy things just in this first thing. They could have made me, they could have deposed me. And these attorneys are completely doing Blake and Ryan's bidding. I've never seen the likes of it.
Mm.
And so the fear, and here's the thing, I have a really big family and we are very close. I love my family. And the fear was not what's going to happen to me. The fear was I know what people are like because while this was happening to us, there were people on Reddit that were actively in comments on Reddit publicly discussing how they were trying to find me and Leanne in real life. They were dangling like a spider in their web over because the jurisdiction, Google is in California. That is the proper place that this all should have taken place. So they knew there was a chance that we were going to fight it outside of Lyman's court and go directly to California, and I did look into it, but I was going to have to file with my own name and all my own information, and it's all public because of that transparency. There are no protections out there for non-parties, and it's so unfair. But I had considered it, and then I decided I'm not going to do that, and I was so glad that I decided not to do it because they were there just waiting. She was refreshing. She was on Reddit talking about refreshing her computer on that court website to see if I had filed there so she could find me. They were
Mm.
discussing the ways they tried to find my LLC,
Mm.
and I know later they found Little Girl Attorney. Not only did
Mm.
they post stuff about her, they posted pictures of her father. These people are not okay.
Mm.
And I did not want my choice to be a YouTuber to harm my family. I didn't want my family's pictures showing up somewhere on some website so everybody could say, oh, here's her dad. Oh, he blah, blah, blah. That's disgusting behavior. That is absolutely inexcusable behavior. And the worst part is this woman claims to be an attorney, the woman who was doing
Oh.
this. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, whether she is or not, because I mean, I just like find it really hard that a real attorney would have this kind of behavior. So
I'm
maybe she's not.
shocked.
Yeah,
That
and
was a
people were
plot twist. I was
it
not expecting
was.
that. You can tell I don't frequent Reddit.
Oh, don't go
I
there.
don't want my feelings
Yeah,
hurt.
right. Right. Oh no, they were saying I needed to go to prison. Yeah,
Wow.
it was
And this
yeah
was a
because
lawyer.
yeah, they said
That's
I
wild.
was going to prison. I don't remember how some crazy amount of years. I'm like, this is insane. But
Wow.
so yeah, it was scary. And I will tell you, it's this the fear is not over because like I
Mm.
said, I am not afraid. Ezra probably had no idea who I even was. I don't think these people knew who we were. I think we came from a list that Ryan and Blake made. I think because they can't stand criticism, and I think they went out there and they found people who said things about them they didn't like, and this was all about shutting us up, intimidating us and shutting us up. And I think in the end, when they learn this case or when they lose this case, ultimately, they're gonna be very, very angry, and they can never take the blame, and so I think it will that anger all that anger and blame that was aimed at us then, I think it's gonna come back. I
Mm.
don't think they're their personalities, they are vengeful, petty, cruel people. So, as far as, the emotional toll, it's not over. It's not
Mm.
over. And, so yeah, but financially, there was no cost to me whatsoever.
How
It
about the
was
whole
just
situation with Judge Lyman choosing to make things moot?
okay. This is why I already had thought there was some bias going on with him, and, like I said before, I'm a very black and white person. So, when it was discovered that there was a Wall Street Journal article about him, he was only 2 years into 2 years on the bench. That's not a very long amount of time, but already he was investigated, and that investigation uncovered 13 cases that he should have recused himself on, but did not. And some of those cases, one of them had to be completely redone, the entire trial redone. All of that money that the government had to pay for to redo this case, a long case, a difficult case, all over again because this man's hubris of not recognizing that he should have recused himself. And not only the cost to the government, but the cost to both sides. They had to pay these attorneys. I'm sure it cost them both millions to retry this case because this man who knowingly took a case that he shouldn't have taken. And why do I say knowingly? Because he tried to say, "Oh, that was my wife's stock. I didn't know about it." But when he applied to become a judge, he had to fill out this long application. And a big part of that application is filling out his financial information, every stock he owns. And the reason, they don't have to show their property, they don't have to say how much money's in the bank, because that doesn't matter. But if you own stock, there are potential clashes. If you are going to oversee cases of companies that you own stock in, that's a clash and you're supposed to recuse yourself. So he listed every stock and it's not just his stock, he had to list every stock his wife owns. If you are
Hmm.
still married, if you're separated, divorced, that's not yours anymore. You don't have to report it, but he's still married. So he had to report that. Every year they have to update it. So there is physical, tangible proof that you can look at of all
Mm.
these years of him reporting this stock that this man cannot look at me with a straight face and say, I didn't know
Mm.
I owned the stock because I've got the proof that you did. You filled it out in your questionnaire every year. Not only that, he was assigned the case, and then before the case comes to trial, he's he had his wife sell it. He had
Oh.
actually sold it by the time he did the trial. Now, you can say, "Oh, it's a coincidence," but is it? Can you
Mm.
convince me beyond a reasonable doubt that you didn't say, "Uh-oh, I'm gonna be presiding over this case, I better get rid of this." You can't. You can't convince me of that without a doubt. I cannot say how that went. It could be innocent. It could not be innocent. I don't know that. But when you leave that kind of question there, that's why when he was investigated, that case had to be completely redone. So I feel once I see and it was a pattern. It wasn't one time, it was 13 times that they found that he had done this same thing. Once I see something like that, it tells me a lot of information about your moral compass, about your hubris. And I've got an issue, all of a sudden. Not only that, when I saw for myself and then heard other people say when he dismissed the Wayfarer case that he overstepped in a lot of that. That he and I saw him heard not saw him, but heard him in the hearings. I heard him not let Wayfarer finish a sentence, cut them off, but let Blake's team babble. I heard him lawyer for Blake's team. He was not sitting there neutrally balancing, hearing both sides out and weighing what they said. He would bring in arguments that Blake's team didn't even bring in themselves. You're not supposed to do that.
Mm.
That red flagged for me. Huge. Um, the way he speaks to Wayfarer as opposed to the way he speaks to Blake, I had issues with that. Then there were 2 different times, and one time he had to change one of his orders because Wayfarer had said, it's this, Michael Gottlieb had said, no, it's that. And then come to find out, one of those things was about Jed Wallace and whether or not Brian Friedman had represented him legally. Judge Lyman had spoken about it in a hearing. It's in the transcript. He knew it. It was there. And it was at his fingertips to find it. And on another occasion, there was another filing in his court where it was mentioned again. But instead of looking at his own transcript to see who was right, he just trusted Michael Gottlieb and ignored what Wayfarer said when it was actually Wayfarer that was right. And that's why he had a change in order that he made, because Wayfarer brought that evidence to him and said, look, you knew that I represented him at some point. So
Mm.
that bothered me. And then when it came to this with the content creators, that was my last straw. Because we were non-parties, and the federal government has made protections for non-parties, third parties, whatever you want to call us, that because it states in the law that as non-parties, we didn't choose to be a part of this lawsuit. We got called in by somebody, by one of the sides. They call us in. So we are supposed to have better protections than what the actual parties have. So one of those things, and the easiest way to get your subpoena quashed, is to say you can get this information from a party. If you can get this information from a party, you have no reason to come after a third party. Blake had already, in her request for production to Wayfarer, she had already requested this information. She'd asked them, which content creators did you speak to? Did you pay anybody? Did you send this information for them to talk about? There were people to ask. Everybody in the Wayfarer party had been asked this question. There was no need. There was no need to come and subpoena us as well. Not only that, every court in this country has a jurisdiction. 100 miles outside of your courthouse, you have no subpoena power. That's why, and it just came up yet again when they said, who's going to show up to the trial? Because now that you are no longer defendants in this case, the court doesn't have the power to subpoena you to come to New York. So under that same rule is what we should have been protected under. Our subpoenas were not in New York. They were in California. So the correct way to subpoena Google for my information and everybody else's information was to go to a court in California, and where you would have to plead your case to say, to overcome my First Amendment right, my rights to privacy. She would have had to prove that she needed that so much that she would have the right to subpoena me. She would have had to present that in California. We see that happened. Okay, within this case, Stephanie Jones had her case going. She tried to subpoena people in California. She tried to subpoena Meta. What did she have to do? Exactly what I just said. She couldn't issue a subpoena out of New York because it's out of jurisdiction. They have no right to subpoena anybody in California. And so she had to do it the right way because why? Why? I want to know why. It's the same case. Blake didn't have to do it, but Stephanie did. Why? Because Judge Lyman let her do it. When they tried to subpoena Brian Friedman, where did they subpoena Brian Friedman? Where he lives, California. Why? Because New York cannot subpoena him. So what happened when it got fought? Perez, where did he fight his? Las Vegas, because that's where he lives. Andy Signor, where is he fighting it? Florida, because that's where he lives. But this judge allowed a subpoena, and not one for each of us. He allowed this same subpoena to get used not only outside of his jurisdiction, but in this part of California, that's one jurisdiction, because California is huge. In another part of California, that's another jurisdiction. we had different response dates. It went to different platforms. The same subpoena went to Google, it went to X, it went to TikTok, it went to people who live in Canada, it went to
Mm,
people who live in England. It doesn't work like that. And everybody involved knew it, and he allowed it. And in our responses, we spoke on all of these things, and he ignored it. He allowed her, it's called strategic, I forgot the phrase. It's very rarely brought up, but I mentioned it in my motion for sanctions. This is it's something that attorneys do to stop a judge from ruling on I mean it can have different applications, and not it's not just for this. But in this case, what he allowed to happen, here's what Ezra did. I filed the first motion to quash. Her response was due on Monday. No, the judge's ruling was due on Monday. On Saturday, Ezra files a motion and she just withdrew it. Because she knew she couldn't fight it. And I will forever be proud that I beat these multi-million-dollar attorneys with my little humble motion to quash. But she knew she couldn't fight that law. And so she said, "Oh, let's just withdraw it." Why did she do that? It was strategic on her part, because if she had not done that, the judge would have ruled on my motion to quash. And guess what? He would have had to rule. He would have had to grant it. That would have quashed that subpoena, not just for me, because she was using that subpoena to subpoena everybody. And he did not. He let her
mm,
do this. And when I was subpoenaed, there were 43 of us. He let
mm,
that subpoena live on until it came to 107 people, knowing that it was not a legally sound subpoena. So I
mm,
actually get my feelings a little bit hurt when people jump to his defense, because I
mm,
want to say, you didn't go through what we went through. You aren't a victim of Judge Lyman. So defend him, praise him, okay. But it does. It honestly hurts my feelings a little bit because of what he allowed to happen to me. That he should, if you want to say, oh, he's so procedural, he just wants to do things by the book, he just wants to be thorough. Why didn't he do that for us?
mm,
If he's so procedural and so by the book and so by the law, why did he not do it for non-parties? I don't understand it. And the motion for sanctions that we filed, it wasn't just a motion for sanctions. We asked for a protective order because we found out we got ours quashed. We're like, oh, yay. Or not quashed, but withdrawn. We're like, oh, yay. Okay, we're safe. Then we found out that, like Andy Signor, they had attempted on 3 separate platforms to subpoena him. And so we thought, we're not out of the woods yet. There's
mm,
still other platforms that we're on. So this one got quashed. And now what's she going to do? Go to Instagram, go to X, and find us in another way? So we didn't feel safe. So we asked him to grant us a protective order to say that she could not try to subpoena us on any other platform. He ignored it. At least 5 of us asked him for this. He has to this date never ruled on it. And I told him in my motion for sanctions, I said, I have not provided my name to the court, so I can't even get money from you. I don't want money. I didn't lose money, but I want a ruling that this is not okay, because it goes beyond just us. Every single decision that a judge makes is beyond the current case they're working on, because future cases down the road can say it's case law. This judge ruled this way, so we can get this now. This subpoena was so dangerous. What this was asking for, it was taking away or attempting to take away our First Amendment right. It was a very important situation. And his allowing this to happen from New York, no less, to all of these places, to other countries, from now on, any content creator could be subjected to this type of subpoena again in the future because he didn't rule on it. To this day, there is not a ruling against any of these subpoenas. They were withdrawn, and so he considered our motions moot.
mm,
So from here on, and it will be women, just like it was in this case, any content creator can be subpoenaed and they can say, oh, well, the SDNY, the largest federal court in our country, allowed this, and it can be allowed. How many people, how many victims of this kind of backdoor law we know there were 107 just in this case. How many will there eventually be? Because this man who's constantly praised for being and defended for being procedural and by the book, did not do his job. He has created a horrible situation, not only in this case, but in others. And it sickens me that inside this very case, not just in his courtroom, but in this very case, we had Stephanie Jones who had to walk the line. She had to follow the rules. She had to file in California. Not only that, they knew that when they went after, well, it was Wayfarer that subpoenaed Taylor Swift. So they do things right. So I can't really say anything about that. But look at when Taylor Swift got subpoenaed, it didn't come out of New York. It went to the district of where her law firm is. They operate out of Washington, D.C. And remember dealing with her subpoena? It all happened in Washington, D.C. because that's how it's supposed to go. So all these other people in this same case, it was done correctly. But why? Why wasn't ours? And why did he allow it? And why has he still not ruled on it? Why did he not grant us protection? We were non-parties in his case. And the other thing was that I wanted to protect my privacy. And I was stalked in the past, and it was terrifying. This person got into my car. He broke the locks. Later, he came and he messed with something under the hood because he could get into it to open the hood. And it just happened to be a very reliable car. So I got down the road. It was very late at night. It was freezing. It was winter. And I was on a road with no homes, no businesses. After like 1 o'clock in the morning on my car, that's where it died. It didn't die in the lot. It died on that road. This was with me being fully aware that I was being stalked.
Hmm.
And I believe I believe in things. And just by chance on this weird, dark little road that almost nobody drives down, a police officer pulled up behind me and put his lights on, and he came up to my window, and my car was completely dead. I couldn't even roll down my window. I had to open the door. So I waited till he was where he could see me, and I could tell he was afraid approaching a dark car too. Because terrible things happen to police officers. And so I waited till he could see me, and then I had to open my door because I couldn't roll down the window. And I told him, I don't know what's wrong with my car, because I didn't know that it had been sabotaged yet till after the mechanic looked at it. But he said, I told him, oh, it just broke down. And so he said, I'll sit behind you as long as I can, but if I get called away, I have to go. So I had called for a tow, but it was, like I said, after 1 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't super close to anything, and middle of winter. And so I was sitting there, and cars passed in the process. Probably one of them was my stalker waiting for
Hmm.
me to break down, and saw the policeman and left. And he was able to stay behind me for about 15 or 20 minutes. And so by then the tow truck was just about 10 minutes away. So I only had to sit there alone for 10 minutes. And I imagine whoever this guy was following me and saw me break down. And but then the policeman was there, and so he left. So I made it. But it escalated after that, and he was never found.
Hmm. So that threat feels like it's still there.
Yeah, because I left. I left to China, but I came back, and I had bought a home in another place. But I came home, and my mom's health had declined a lot, so I wanted to be near her. So I'm back in the area. Anyway, it's a feeling you can't describe, to know that somebody was watching you that closely, that they found your car, that they invaded your car, that they tried to set you up, and then the things that happened later, and you had no idea. Like, this person was watching you, but you don't know who they were. You don't know what they look like. You don't know how much of your life they actually tracked. How far did they follow you? what do they know about you? How long before they got brave enough to break into your car were they doing this? And you don't, they could, to know that they could and probably did stand right in front of you at some point, and you didn't even know that you were in danger. And then he's still out there and he knows what you look like. I don't know what he knows about me. And so I have protected myself in every way I know how. And this judge refused to protect me. And I filed twice. It never made it to the docket. I filed two
Mm,
motions that never made it to the docket. All everybody else saw was his order refusing it because I wouldn't put my name.
mm,
And we had a deadline. And I even, in my letter, I was like, all I need from you is a court filing so I can stop this. And people thought I was so disrespectful, and so the way I talked to him was so awful. How do you speak to a federal judge? This man did not do his job. He
mm,
allowed this subpoena that was not legally sound to be served on me when it should have been shut down. When you get this kind of subpoena, an attorney has no right to write out this subpoena and send it in the authority of his court. So he was the one who should have stopped it. An attorney has no right to just subpoena this kind of subpoena. This is a special one. The other kinds of subpoenas where they were subpoenaing phone records and things like that, they have full right to do that on their own. They don't need court's permission for that. This type of subpoena is not like that because you are attacking an anonymous person on the internet and you are going to invade their First Amendment rights. So you have to go to the court and show cause why you need this. And you have to argue it, present it, and convince a judge that you do, in fact, need it. Something she never could have done. And he let her bypass what this government has arranged for people like me. He let her bypass that under his authority and serve this way beyond 100 miles of his power to somewhere in California. And then he wasn't letting me ask him to quash this. And so by the time everybody saw my angry, venomous words to him, he had already denied me twice. This was my third attempt. I
mm,
was not going to let this happen, whatever it took. I have a lot of friends back in China, and I had one of my friends, I made them the president. They felt safe in China beyond his subpoena power, and no way for them to even do it. I made them the president of my LLC, and they allowed their name on there, and so I put that name. And then these crazy people on Reddit said that in Chinese it means blah blah blah. No, it was a real person's name who was really filed on my LLC. And then they're
mm,
like, we can't find her LLC. I changed the name of my LLC. I am not a fool. I know how to keep myself safe. So I closed my old one and opened a new one because I protect myself and no one was protecting me. So then I found out that there is subpoena power to China. Yeah, they will honor it. Like if you want to subpoena somebody or depose them or something, it I thought for sure that it wouldn't be allowed to China, and then I found out it does. And then I found out Peru doesn't. I was ready to go to Peru, but at the time I was just fighting to keep my information private. Not only for Blake and Ryan, but for these crazies on Reddit who were trying to find me. Well,
mm,
why? Why do they care who I am? Why was
mm.
it so important? So I included the screenshots that people had sent me of the conversations of people trying to find me. And
Wow.
I finally did get to he then after that he accepted that, but he said that to file like as a Jane Doe, you have to file a motion to seal, and you have to prove to the court that you need to be sealed. And that's why I said in my reply, I'm like, why in the world? I'm trying to protect my privacy, but you are telling me that I have to give up my privacy in order to ask you for privacy. And that's when I said,
Yeah.
how dare this court? And So I had to, and it was so upsetting because when you have something like this, if you want to share it with someone because you choose to, that's up to you. And you hold the power because you get to decide what you want to tell and who you want to tell it to. When a court forces you to tell them why you need protection, they are violating you again because you have no power. I was powerless. I either had to let them subpoena my information or I had to give this man my story against my will. And it was infuriating. He is not a person I would choose to tell, but I had to. I had to risk Blake's team getting a hold of it, Blake getting a hold of it, Ryan getting a hold of it. These awful, horrible people that violated Jen Abel, these backdoor attorneys. It was sickening and it was so wrong. So the emotional toll was huge. It still is. I still have fear because these are vindictive, vengeful people and they're going to lose this case. And when they lose this case, it's going to be somebody's fault. We influence the jury, all of us evil content creators. I just don't feel like it's over or that I'm safe. And it's disgusting that the man whose job it is to protect third parties, he's told this in the law put forth by the federal government to protect third parties, non-parties, and he didn't. And then people say, oh, he's so procedural. Oh, he just wants to do everything by the book. Oh, he just follows the law. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He has protected Blake far too much in this case instead of other people that should have been protected. But, and what would I wanted him to do? I wanted him to quash. I wanted him to quash the subpoena, not just for my sake, but for everybody else's sake and anyone in the future who his decisions will affect in future cases. And I wanted him to, what he just did to Brian Friedman and Kevin Fritz, who didn't do anything near this atrocious. I wanted him to tell Ezra, to admonish her like he did them. This was wrong. Don't do this. I didn't want money. I wanted him to rule on that subpoena and tell Ezra she had done wrong and make it a part of court record so that in the future, if anybody wanted to do something stupid and horrible like this, they could see, oh, the judge ruled against this. He said this is not proper. He didn't allow it.
I will say, as you know, because we talked about it offline, that I was one of the people that would say that Judge Lyman is just procedural. And hearing the pain in your voice and hearing your experience, it does make me go, I'm probably going to stop saying that. Because I'm not out here trying to hurt Cassidy and I'm not out here trying to hurt,
No, I
like,
am.
other folks that were really harmed by his decision. I mean, again, I'm a non-lawyer. It seemed like he was just, like, I mean, I don't know. And also maybe it's partly my desire to not believe anybody's corrupt or
Mhm.
any of those things. That's probably what, is part of the reason why I'm the way that I am.
Well,
But
it's scary to
it does
think.
give me pause about making sure that if I don't understand, to not even say that because I could be hurting people that I don't even mean to.
Well, no, and everybody has a right to have their own viewpoint of him. I appreciate my right to have my opinion. I don't like it when people criticize me for it, but yeah, that's the reason. Those are all the reasons why I feel that way. And but if people want to continue to believe that about him, that's okay too. I'm not going to get mad at anybody or hold a grudge or call anybody out. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are very good reasons. With that said, it is almost 9. So,
yeah, I was going to
and
say we
we
might have
have
to.
gotten as far as question 6, and there's
Oh no.
14 more questions. Technically 15 because I have my typical ending question. So, I guess my question to you is, um, what's your availability for the next portion of this? Because I don't know um how long it's gonna be.
Mhm. Well, I'll
'Cause
I'll
again,
answer.
we only got as far as 6 questions,
Yeah.
and there's 15 more.
Well,
So, and
especially
and
the
and
end,
and
I think
15.
they're quick to answer. So,
Yeah.
so
S
tomorrow, I think tomorrow I'm free all day.
okay, so tomorrow I'm doing a phone call with one of my bocce, besties, but that's just a 20-minute call, and that's gonna be what time did I say to her? I think I said to her 6:30 to 6:50. Let me see. and I feel bad too because again, like I'm so tired that I feel like one, like I mean, and maybe this is the ADHD in me. I don't know if it's an ADHD thing in me, but I don't want my face, especially as you're bearing your soul and you're like I'm afraid my face is like so emotionless and like seemingly unmoved, and that's not my desire. Like really, it was genuinely like I'm looking at this K in the middle, and I'm like, okay, what is this K in the middle? And but then like this light is like making me like extra sleepy here. And then so I'm like, I don't know what it is. You know when you get like your eye checked and like, well maybe it's not I haven't had my eyes checked in forever. But like they used to have like the light. They
Yeah,
had to like open my eyes like this very like they had to do it because like it would they would try to shine a light in my eye and my eyes would naturally close.
yeah.
And so they had to like put something to keep my eyes open. But it was so hard because I don't know what it is about the light. It's just, but the thing is, I'm supposed to have a light. So I'm like, but it's staring me right here.
Mm,
And and after a while, I'm just like, oh,
can't
it
do
just does a
that.
number on me. And I don't know
Yeah.
how to necessarily do lighting differently, but it just makes me so tired. Um, um, anyways, with that said, okay, what did I say to Theon?
You might have to edit
Um,
in new reactions later.
the what? Oh.
Just
You know what? I mean, at the end of the day, like, I hope people understand. I hope they're but I mean, I am a person like looks at I mean, like when Ryan was doing his interview, I was like, well. No, um okay, oh here we go. Theon. Yeah. I'm meeting with Theon from 6:30 to 6:50.
Okay.
Oh, so um so if it's maybe 7 is safe, 7 PM.
Okay.
Um and then hopefully um so we could spend up to like an hour and a half, and hopefully we can, if these other ones
Yeah.
are shorter in answer,
Yeah. A
then we
lot
can
like
just bust this out.
the last, like, I don't know, 6 or so are really quick answers. These were just
Okay.
especially this one with the content creators, there's no way to answer that short.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Thank you for understanding.
I
I've
need
been
to
trying to
refresh.
uh, I've been trying to do this like sleeping right and early and all that stuff. But this morning I mean I still slept fine. I slept on time, and I'm really just trying to get back, I mean trying to get to what do you call it? A consistency of like at least 70% of sleeping at the same time every night,
Mhm.
which actually just reminded me. Oh, here we go. I oh, okay. I have a spot saved for you this Saturday, April 25th, 10 a.m. start. I'm not sure exactly which spot. I'm playing bocce. I haven't played bocce in ages. Okay, I'm really
Mhm.
tired.
Mhm.
So thank you for meeting, and let's try again for the second half of this at 7 p.m. And I'll let Theon know that I need to get off at 6:50 because it's the same link.
Okay.
And so I want to make sure that Theon just knows that I have to skedaddle right at 6:50 so you could come in at 7. Oh, anyways. Yawning is so contagious.
It
Um,
is, it's crazy.
all right. I will talk to you later.
Okay, okay. Alright, thank you.
All right, thanks, Cassidy.
Alright, see you
Bye.
tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks, bye. So the next question comes from Kimberly White, who's a bocce bestie. Wants to know, how were you able to fight BL's subpoena and win without revealing who you are?
So this one I kind of answered in the really, really long answer to the last question, that my first 2 attempts, he refused to even acknowledge. I remember his words, I will never probably till the day I die, "This court will not entertain this
Mm,
document." unless you blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Um, but so I did what I said with my LLC and then ultimately filed for Jane Doe status, and he did finally grant that and allowed me to do that, but I had already pretty much pleaded my case by then. I just went ahead and did it after someone else had done it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is what he means. I need to do this." And then I did it because I didn't know if she was gonna fight it or what was gonna happen next. So I went ahead and filed for the Jane Doe for whatever was gonna come next,
Mm,
and then that's how I filed my motion for, a protective order and sanctions and so on.
mm, okay. I was wondering if, like, there was a winning because I remember you saying things were, like, mooted or something, so I was like, "Is that a
Mhm.
win? Or is that
It's
a"
not technically a win, and that's what was so frustrating about it, because that means it wasn't a lose for her either. That's why
Mm,
it's considered strategic, and that's something that attorneys are not supposed to do. They every single one of us that filed a motion to quash, that's what she did. Rather than let the judge rule, she would just pull it. She would just withdraw it, and he kept letting her do it.
mm,
And so that's how she avoided a ruling.
mm,
'Cause she used the same subpoena over and over and over again. Once
mm,
that subpoena would have been quashed, she couldn't keep using it, and he knew that, and she knew that, and that's why he didn't rule, in my opinion. He did that to let her keep using it. 'Cause he turned around and granted Blake an extension of time, because we were all waiting, "Okay, when does discovery end? Then we can all sigh of relief, we're free of this." And he went and gave her this ridiculously long extension to give her more time to follow up on that specific subpoena and all of the
mm.
extra people that she had subpoenaed with it, and
I
that
was
I
wondering what
was
happened to the rest.
just furious. So, yeah, there's to this date, there is no ruling on all any of our motions except Kenz's where he refused. He denied her motion for, sanctions.
So there are still things that is pending?
Yeah, all the rest of us. He only ruled on Kenz's, but we all wrote
Oh,
one.
wait, so what was m w what do y'all have left?
The motion for a protective order, and it was all combined into one. It was the motion for a protective order, a motion for sanctions, and then
Oh,
I
so
wanted
your
him.
motion of sanctions is still on there.
Yeah, but he didn't even when he ruled on Kenz's. Well, let me walk this back a second. I'm saying it with such certainty. In that one, he did cover a few other motions on the docket. He mentioned them by number. I know for sure mine wasn't on there, and I don't think Leanne's or Lauren's was either. He included some different numbers. I know mine is not there. I'm not sure who else's he ignored. But yes, mine was not on that, because in the one that he ruled on Kenz's, he listed some other dockets and declared them. I think he declared them moot,
Okay.
but mine was not even listed on it.
Hmm,
So
m'kay, just
it's just ignored.
okay. I was just wondering. So it could be possible that you will get an answer to it.
Yeah, could be. But that was kind of like a when he was cleaning everything up that was still hanging, and he had listed earlier, like at least a month earlier, he had listed what was still remaining to be decided, and mine wasn't on that list. Kenz's
Mm,
was. And then he ultimately ordered on that, but he hasn't even acknowledged. What he granted was to appear as Jane Doe. He granted that one.
mhm,
But then he just completely ignored the motion that followed.
hmm. And that docket
What's that?
and that motion made it to the docket?
Yeah, the one asking for a protective order, yeah, and, Lauren filed one, Leanne filed one, Ashley filed one, I think Sweet and Salty might have, and then Ken's filed her own later.
How come that one got answered and
It came much later. Yeah, she filed hers later, not when we all did. We filed ours immediately.
I mean, so why does that get responded to earlier than the ones that were there for the
I
longest?
have
I didn't mean to have a
I don't
bazillion follow-up on that, but I was just
No, no, it's okay. I don't wanna get it wrong, and I honestly cannot remember. I remember when it came out, I went live about it, and I was crying again because it just brought it all back. And,
just so much.
Yeah, there really is. I totally feel what you were saying that we used to recall everything and now it's been there's just
Too
too much, and it's
Even
too
my
over
brain is
too long of
overwhelmed.
a mine is too, and it's over too long of a period of time now.
Mhm, mhm. It
Alright, let
has a
me
little
see.
bit of an expiration date in my brain.
Okay, that's the wrong
Well, I mean, we can move on to the next
okay,
question
yeah,
here.
yeah, I don't wanna spend too much time.
Um
But, you know what, I'll look it up and I'll email you, and then you could just delete it out if I what I said was not correct, because
Okay,
I don't wanna be on there saying something incorrect. But
okay.
once I get too tired and my brain is, like, full of what I'm working on right now, yeah, so but I don't wanna leave it in there if it's incorrect.
I mean, um, I wonder I mean, sometimes I'm, like, thinking about the bonus content, like, what I would keep into the bonus content, as, like, sometimes people love bloopers or no, not
Yeah.
bloopers, but, like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but, I mean, I still haven't decided well, okay, I'm gonna get sidetracked again.
Okay, okay. Hi,
Okay.
Chris.
All right. So the next question is from terrestrial. And the question is, do you do anything differently now than you did on your channel before the subpoena?
I would say so. Um,
Mm.
I I was starting to become a little bit more open. I might have even considered at some point going live
Mm.
with
With the
I was
camera?
yeah, on camera, maybe using a filter or something, not something crazy, just, enough to alter my look a little bit, you know? I think I was getting too comfortable, and that reminded me, "Don't ever do that. Don't ever get
Mhm.
that comfortable."
Yeah.
And, I think it closed me up a lot as far as people's access to me, and I know that sounds it comes across differently than I mean it, but I have to protect myself, and I have to protect my family, so it's not like I think everybody who reaches out to me might be just trying to sort something out about me, nothing like that. It's not like I'm putting any kind of accusation against anybody, but there's always pause, and there's always the reality that we don't know who people are on social media, and that goes both ways. People
Mhm.
don't know who I am. They
Mhm.
might know more about me than I know about them because they've heard me talk enough, and so they don't see me, but they hear my voice. They've been able to observe my personality for well over a year now with this case, but we don't know we don't actually know each other on here. And I have had situations years ago. I used to have a Reddit account when I covered 90 Day Fiancé. And I had never in my life been in any kind of chat or had any kind of direct message with a stranger in my entire life. But I was really into the show, and this really nice woman invited me into this chat. I didn't even really know what it was. I just got this invitation and I was like, "What's this?" I wasn't on Reddit for very long, and I clicked on it. And so then I was in this there was like 12 people, something like that, and it was funny. Everybody was laughing and joking, and we would talk about this and talk about that, and then there started to be all of a sudden there was this one specific woman that she was always there too, and it was funny because it's the one who had invited me to the chat in the first place,
Hmm.
and, but I started to realize something's off with her. And there were other people that I'd met in the chat that I actually really started to enjoy talking to. But there were times, like, I would get on and she was always there. Didn't matter what time of day, what time of night. When you put something in there, she was the one responding. And she ended up like, my intuition was correct. She was screen recording the chat. There was one
Mhm.
person in there that she didn't like, and she
Mm.
came to me and did the very thing that I absolutely cannot tolerate. She came to me and started telling me things about that other person and trying to
Mm.
make me think that other person was turning on me somehow, and I don't like that kind of stuff. I hate drama. We talked about that off screen. I
Mhm.
hate that. Don't drag me into your drama. I don't even participate in my own drama. Like, you wanna get dramatic, I'm not gonna take part in it, but if it has nothing to do with me, I'm even less interested in it. And that's what she tried to do, and I when I didn't go along with it, when I told her, "Don't involve me in this stuff," then she went to the rest of the group and tried to tie me in with the person she didn't like. I mean, she was just dividing all of us, and in the end, she was the
Mm,
one that ended up divided out. But I went out of that chat, and I never went back into one, and
mm,
eventually, I just deleted that account that I had, and haven't gone back to it to make a new one or anything. But, she followed me around to, like, Twitter and Instagram and stuff. It was crazy. It was, like, really unhinged behavior, and I was like, I did not know that these type of grown people, she was somewhere in her 50s. I
mm,
didn't know people like that existed.
mm.
That I mean, you should know better by then. Come on, your children are even grown. You're grown. Don't
For some
and
reason, it doesn't surprise me because I watch Catfish. I would watch that show
Ah,
Catfish, and I'd be like, "People are hungry for connection, and they seek for it sometimes in the most unhealthy ways,
yeah,
and 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 sometimes very scary. Like, this is
yeah,
it makes
yeah.
people feel unsafe way."
It was oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It was unsafe because we had been talking about this other blogger who was off the rails, completely off the rails. He would get drunk, he would dox people, he would, um there was one time it got so bad, there was a young mother, I don't know how old her children or there was at least one child. I don't know how old they were, but they were little, and I don't know what she had done to make him angry, but he was angry, and he had these, followers that were they were all like that woman that was in the chat with us, they were just nuts, and they
Mm,
would do anything, like, whoever he got mad at, they would hunt down, find them, give him all the information they found about these women. It was always women, and he would go live. If they had, an arrest in their past, or if they had a divorce, or if they had a bankruptcy, or if they were fat, or if, anything. If their husband had a gambling problem, whatever they could find about that person that was the enemy of the week, they would feed it all to him, and he would play it all. I don't know how he kept his YouTube channel. I don't know if
mm,
he even still has it, but that's what he would do. He would show these women's faces, show their address, he would show maps to their homes
mm,
and and their families.
mm,
And the one, he went on Google Earth and had that map open to, like, the view where you can see it's not, like, just like the streets, it's the one where you can see the actual buildings and stuff. It's like
mhm,
camera view,
mhm,
satellite view, that's what they call it. He'd had that over her house, he had a list of her neighbors' names and addresses, he had a list of her relatives, and
mm,
while he was on YouTube, started or it might have been Instagram back then because he used both. He started calling them
mm.
to talk about her. Because he was trying to get her to come on the live with him, and she wouldn't, and so he said, "Alright, I'm gonna keep calling until you do." And so she ultimately did, and then he just was so cruel and awful to her, and so that's what the woman did. She took our chats where we were talking about him and gave them to this man. It was awful.
Oh,
It was really
gave
yeah.
your stuff to this man?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, but thankfully, I had never, revealed my identity. They ended up finding, a woman who didn't even live in the same state as me. Um, it was not me. I felt so bad for her because they endlessly harassed this woman for probably almost a year till they finally realized it wasn't me. But, yeah, that's what they would do. And,
So
and so
wild.
yeah, and so I learned a lot from that, and I am so glad that that happened to me. back when it didn't matter. That was, several years, like, I don't know, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? Probably no, it was before COVID that all that happened. So I'm so glad that happened to me then when it was not such a serious community as we are in now. And so that's why I came into this already very, very cautious because of that lesson that I had learned. And, so with having had that and then having had this situation, yeah, access to me is very, very difficult. I always tell people, please don't direct message me. Comment here publicly. I'd rather keep it out here publicly. I don't provide an email address for the public to contact me. I would rather not, and just I'll have I try my best to respond to as many comments. I used to be able to respond to every comment, but, there's more now than I can keep track of. I used to do like a once a week at most, pre-recorded live, and so things were very, very different then. But now, this case, it's crazy. It's really hard to keep up, and so I don't always have time to go back and read every comment. I have a lot more comments now than I used to have too. So but
And it
I will
takes
try my
energy.
best. Yeah, it's a lot of energy, it really is, and, I need to be researching or preparing my next episode, and so I try my best to look if there's really something you need to tell me, just tell me publicly. I don't I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or offend anybody, and it's not an easy thing to do because I know that some people do not understand that, and they, feel personally offended by it. And it's not meant that way. It's meant to be, this is just not what I like to do for myself.
Mm.
If you have something to say to me, let's keep it public. I
Mhm.
just don't I just wanna protect the access to me. And like I said, some people can't, they just can't understand that or accept it without being offended by it, and I don't mean it offensively. If they knew how many messages we get, maybe they'd understand. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And YouTube doesn't really show me everything either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't I mean, there's a the good thing is, like, the members have their own, and I
Yeah.
use like, my goal was to respond to all of the members' comments, but even that I can't do. But when I can, I heart things to
Mhm.
acknowledge them when I
Mhm.
can,
Yeah, same
but
here.
sometimes I don't see, like, a comment that somebody makes. Um,
Yeah, there just isn't enough time.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I know there are some creators that never even, they don't even bother to heart. They don't ever respond. Or maybe they'll do the, like, the top 5. And I
Yeah,
don't wanna be like that. I don't, I want them to feel appreciated and heard, but, yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest thing, that I really closed up any kind of personal access to me.
understandable. I mean, you've had a lot of
Bad
disturbing situations
experiences.
happen, so
Yeah,
maybe, you just, you gotta make wise decisions, that, protect you, even if there's some folks that might not understand. Hopefully,
yeah,
most people do, though, um,
yeah.
especially if they know that history behind why you're protecting yourself. The next question is from Julianne 089. Will you still consider making the official complaint about Ezra?
I would like to. Here's the issue. I think you have to put your name. I don't know that you can file it as a Jane Doe. I
Mm,
kept waiting for him to make a ruling on my motion, because then I could take his ruling and that would have more weight to it. But
mm,
he has avoided it. I've considered filing another, like, letter or something saying, "Hey, you missed our motions here. Could you please make a
mhm,
ruling on these?"
mhm,
Um but I don't know if I want to deal with him anymore. If I can find a way to do it where I do not have to reveal myself, because that's the last thing I wanna do on a complaint to Ezra Hudson in California, where that weirdo supposed Reddit attorney is and was refreshing the docket looking for me.
mm,
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna put myself at risk to do it, but I would really like to do it, and I that's what I've been holding out for, is for him to make a ruling on the things. Because if he, by some wild, I don't know, unicorn wish does rule in my favor, it will have more weight to it if I file a complaint, where instead of
Mm.
like right now I have nothing.
The next question is from Bonster1. What has been the biggest surprise in the Blake Lively Wayfarer case so far?
I think not actually pertaining to the case itself, but I think one of the biggest surprises to me is that I I know some journalists, some actual journalists, like Mandy Matney and Liz Farrell. They covered the Murdoch case. I talked about them a while ago. They are so tenacious. These women
Mm,
are so strong and so brave, and I admire them so much because they were living in South Carolina and reporting on the corruption that was happening at the time for that family, and I've talked about a lot of that kind of stuff. It included law enforcement, it included attorneys, it included, judges, it included high up people. One of Alex's attorneys was, at the time, a senator. These were powerful, scary men. And they wanted to uncover the truth, and nothing stopped them. They both ended up wildly terrified. For the longest time, Mandy couldn't leave her home. Liz she filed something with the court just last week describing the conditions that she lives. She moved out of state. She has maximum security going on at her house. She has a panic room, and she went and got licensed and got a gun. That's the kind of lives these women are living now. And
mm,
and it was all about that's how badly they wanted to tell the truth and uncover this corruption. And
mm,
so that is the mindset that I thought that journalists lived under. I mean, going back to there was a documentary about Watergate, I think on Netflix, recently. Those kind of journalists that worked for the Washington Post at the time, what they risked and what they did, like hours and hours of this stuff, and they were going up against the president of the United States and his men, but they were tenacious and they were not gonna give up and they wanted to uncover the truth. In my foolish and naive mind, I told myself that that's what journalists did, and to see what the media actually is,
mm.
to uncover what PR actually is with the likes of Leslie Sloan, I think that was probably the biggest surprise and biggest disappointment that, not directly related to the case, but that really opened my eyes, like, seeing what those things were, and, um and this seems small and very, very silly, but to find out the truth about Taylor Swift,
Mm,
that that was hurtful in a sense. I called myself a Swiftie, but I wasn't the kind that was, like, tracking what she wore at the concert or where she was in the concert, and nothing
mm,
like that. But I did watch some of the documentaries that she has made, like the one when COVID was in and she was doing the recording in her home and that kind of stuff. And the way that her fans could relate to her, she's had her heart broken a million times, even though she's so famous. And so, like, when they went through heartbreaks, they're like, "Oh, we can relate to her music. Even Taylor Swift has been cheated on or had her heart broken." So it made them feel better, and it created a community where lonely people or even just not lonely people, just people who wanted to chat with others online, like, they had this community that they could go and be a part of and feel kinship with, and I thought that was a good thing for women to have, especially for the women who were lonely. Like, they had that, and I thought, "That's so good," and I thought she was so kind, and you always hear about the way she gives, like, service people respect. She honors them by making on eye contact, speaking to them. She likes to give huge tips to them wherever she goes, and then to, like, wow, to see what she was. I'm not like a fan of every single one of her songs. Like, I did not like Tortured Poets whatsoever. I think I did a quick run through. I didn't even finish the songs all the way through. I think the only one I liked was Fortnite. But, not that kind of like crazed fan, but there were a couple of her songs that I felt were almost like anthems for women
mm,
that I would use to hype myself up. Like, there's one
mhm,
song I think it's called, "I'd Be the Man," where she's
mhm,
talking about did you know that song?
mhm.
Yeah, I love that one because what it says is so true. You can have a woman do something and have a man do the exact same thing, and you're gonna call the woman a slut, and you're gonna call him the man, and I loved that, and I love the beat of it, so, like, that could I could use that to hype myself up if I needed energized to do something. There's the other one, I could do it with a broken heart, that it's just such a fun beat, and just, like, the message that she has in there for people is like, "Yes, your heart may be broken, but you can do this, you got this, and you can smile and nobody'll even know what's going on inside," you know? There were songs like that that I've like I said, they felt like anthems for women. And so and I miss using them that way because I can't feel the same about her after finding out after seeing those texts. I held on hope, especially, like, after Brian Friedman said, "Oh, I talked to her." He didn't say who, but we all assumed it was her father. And they said this and that, and I'm like, "Oh, Taylor's gonna be the she's gonna be the star witness that's gonna win this case. She's gonna reveal the truth about Blake." I was really excited for that, and I held out hope till the very last minute,
Mm.
till those messages came out, and I was like, what a sad realization to find out. I mean, she wasn't a hero of mine per se, but it was disappointing. And I
Yeah.
know it's silly, like, to even dwell on that. It's such a little part of the
I
case,
don't
but
she wouldn't have the fan base that she had. Like, it I would never say it's silly because she has a strong fan base.
mhm. Oh, yeah,
She
probably the
affects
strongest in this world.
affects economies. Yeah.
She does.
So, I mean, uh and that happens because people related with her. I will say what I find amusing is that so much of the conversation between Taylor and Blake, she said very little. In like there was the one text message where she said, "You like me," which like boggled my mind because I'm like, "You do know
Yeah.
you're Taylor Swift, right?" But what boggled my mind, I mean, what not boggled my that boggled my mind, but what made me laugh was she literally had one line. This whole page was Blake Lively, one line from Taylor Swift, and then Blake Lively, Blake Lively, Blake
Yeah.
Lively, Blake Lively, and I'm like, "So you don't wait for her to respond?" Like, and there's space. I mean, it's interesting. It was just an interesting vibe,
Yeah,
the
I
kind of
kind of
dynamic.
yes, the dynamic is what stood out to me too. I thought to myself, "They might not be as close of friends as people think, or as Blake has pretended that they are." Because that did not seem like an equal ground. That's not how I talk to my friends. It felt distant, it felt cold, it felt odd. And
Yeah.
yeah, like Blake was just like fawning over her.
Yeah. She's like, I'm just so mad," and then she's just ranting, on
Yeah,
and it was like, when are you gonna wait for Taylor to respond?" I mean,
yeah.
it's literally you're I'm reading a whole page, and there's one line from Taylor Swift, and everything else were paragraphs from Blake Lively.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can't recall the rest of the text messages, but that one I just remember looking at, I'm like, "Taylor's only in one sentence of this thing." And it's so
Yeah.
long.
Yep. And
That's
then we, like, watched their friendship die in the end where Blake's like, I feel like something's wrong," and Taylor's like, yeah, there is."
yeah. Well, I
So,
mean yeah,
she
go
could
ahead.
surprise us all, show up in court, and who knows, sell
I
Blake
mean,
out. That would be amazing.
she didn't fight not having the text released though, right?
I don't remember anything filed to no, she didn't. No, when all those motions to continue sealing, she didn't.
Yeah. So a part of me feels like she was like, "Let it be."
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she knew that it could look bad if she fought it. I don't know,
Mhm.
but
But the
I
text made
mean,
her look pretty bad too, so
yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. So I would never say silly. I think sometimes I think, people feel things for reasons. It's never really silly. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I don't think it is. Okay, so the next question is out of ideas. How did you feel about Blake and Ryan's and their legal team's hypocrisy of going after content creators for expressing their opinions after Ryan said you can't sue over hurt feelings?
absolutely disgusted. absolutely disgusted. The hypocrisy of this case has just been astronomical from the very beginning. All of this, the stuff, and I was looking through today because I was looking for pictures of Blake for something I was doing, and what came up in the pictures were tons and tons of TikToks, and they were consistently across the board, and they were way back from that time of TikToks of girls putting on, like, 6 layers of shirts and pants and beanies and making fun of what she was wearing.
Mm.
It was it was legit criticism from people that had nothing to do with Wayfarer, and it was talking about her clothes. The criticism that she was up against was that, her being, as people felt, miscast as Lily Bloom, and then her marketing. None of that was about her actual person.
Mhm.
It it was stuff that in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. And then to come at Justin and attack him on such a personal, life-altering way, because irregardless of how this case ends up,
Mhm.
there will always be people who believe this of him, that you cannot
Absolutely.
change their minds. He
Mhm.
will always have this feeling over him, and Jamie as well. Jamie's not as public of a person, but
Mhm.
he will always they will live the rest of their lives with this shadow.
Mhm.
The girls, the same thing. It has destroyed their reputations for
Mhm.
what they do for work, all of them,
Mhm.
even the non-parties, Brianna and Katie,
Mhm.
and, so to me, like, the way they respond to things is 1,000 times worse than what happened to them. So it's even beyond
Yes.
hypocrisy. It's like you didn't just do the bad thing that you said someone else did, but you went 1,000 times worse
Mhm.
with what you did. And it was your hurt feelings, and I will always feel that. I think I said this in one of my comments yesterday, that I don't think it was the attorneys that came after us content creators. I don't think it was their idea. I don't think they knew who we were. I don't think they cared who we were. I think Blake and Ryan sat around searching who's talking about them. And, because people say that they do go to Reddit and stuff, that they even think
Mm.
Ryan
I
has
can believe it.
accounts there. I can believe it. Well, we know they're not filming movies right now.
There
What
is
else are they gonna
definitely
do?
this one Reddit post that I have brought up, we read during one of my lives, and I was like, "There's no way this is not a plant by Ryan Reynolds." Allegedly,
Uh-huh.
allegedly, allegedly. Um,
Mhm.
because it's things that her like, that Ryan and Blake texted to people. And how is this random person, almost verbatim, pushing
Yes.
out this cult thing and saying all these horrible things? And one of the things that this particular account said that always stood out to me is it said, Justin did not handle the time during the strike well. And
Mm.
I have always believed that the biggest issue that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively had was the dailies. They
Mhm.
wanted the dailies. And
That's when she flipped. Well, that's
oh,
when a switch flipped in her.
yeah, because I one of the things that I always say is like Justin Baldoni when he texted Jen Abel um when Ryan Reynolds blocked him, right? This is the thing that I always tell people and I'm like I know it's because of the dailies, right?
Mhm.
Um, he blocks him, like, the day before the family and friends, event, I believe. At least I think it was the day before or maybe the day of, I can't recall. But he puts this they put this in the lawsuit, right? That this is when they find out that Ryan blocked him. And they had
Uh-huh.
the audacity they had the audacity to say, um, that in the little footnote that even though like Wayfarer claims or Justin Baldoni claims that Ryan Reynolds blocked him in May, both Blake and Ryan had already unfollowed him 10 months before, which was the month that they asked for the dailies. And the thing that gets me is like how embarrassing for you, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, that
Yes.
you couldn't even provide dates of these alleged like SH claims We had to find it out from Wayfarer.
But you
You
remember
didn't
the
provide dates for
dates.
that, but you can remember when you unfollowed Justin Baldoni? That's
Wow,
embarrassing.
that is
Also,
embarrassing.
how embarrassing for you that he didn't even notice. Were you fuming that for 10 months this man did not even know? And that it had to take you blocking him to even realize that you had he does not find an emotional ties to follows and unfollows, except this one, because he knew what you all were doing. But you know what I mean? But the ties is in the dailies. 10 months before was the month that she asked for the
Ah,
second time for the dailies. And almost to the date, slightly
wow.
like maybe 4 days difference. And so I I s I still think to this day that that was about the dailies. Also, the Colleen Hoover was a very weird, deposition around her being like, I mean, as an executive producer, I thought I should have the right to see the
Yeah,
dailies,
who
and
told you that?
yeah, and the thing is, she's yet later on in her own deposition, she claimed, like, because she says, "I've always been able to see the dailies. I've, da da da," and I'm like, but later on in your deposition, you say you've never been on set before this one. So
Yeah.
what were you comparing it to? Like, it felt like a Blake argument, and
Mhm.
on top of that is the fact that she um she says she asked for the dailies for the very first time in May of 2023.
Wait
And
wait,
then she said she got access
there weren't
to the
dailies
dailies. Oh, sorry?
there weren't dailies in 2023.
No, there were
Not
dailies
till
and
the end, right? The
I
end of
mean, like,
2020.
but there's still dailies that happened in May. But the thing
Oh,
is, she claims, Colleen Hoover claims that she got access to the dailies around June or July. Again, this is when Blake Lively asked for the dailies. And I
oh,
remember when Blake says to Warren on August 29th, he says that people are not allowed to see the dailies except the like certain folks. And she goes, which we already know that's not the truth. Which made me wonder, like, how did you know that was not the truth? Like,
hmm,
did you bring in this is why I'm still not convinced that Colleen Hoover and Blake Lively didn't have some sort of relationship prior. Because there's just
mm,
something that felt very off to me that I
mhm.
never knew that Colleen Hoover got access to the dailies through
Yeah,
Angie Giannetti, if we were to believe her deposition, right? But also the other thing that I is my other Roman Empire, and I'm all of this will just be in the bonus content because this is totally my rabbit trail. But is the fact that when she's talking about the dailies and so upset with Warren on August 29th, upset about not getting these dailies, what does she say? She says, I have the HR report ready, by the way. And so I'm
yeah,
like,
yep,
I wanna see it. No spoilation, right, Blake? I wanna see it.
yep.
Show me what this HR report was.
Why was it
Yeah,
never produced in court?
yeah, why was it never produced in court? Unless it's that 30-point document, which I always scoff at when they said it was contemporaneous. I was like, "No, it was not." If it was contemporaneous, it would be in the order things happened, and because of Wayfarer, we know that the first one should have been this he described his genitalia, not the nude video of your
Right,
wife, you know? It's I said it was written for like maximum impact,
yep,
uh, for people to feel things. And I said the biggest, most effective, deceptive thing that Blake Lively did was stick that 30-point document out there and make people think, even though she can say, well, no, the thing said it was exhibit B that was the signed document, right? And I get that, Blake, but you literally stuck 30-point document. All these newspapers went with your no more statements, which again, people were like, this feels like Ryan because only Ryan loves to dig in at like
mhm,
using no more as the
because that was
organization.
the organization, yep,
Yeah. And he does things like, oh, like somebody had asked me, okay, I gotta stop it with this one and we'll get us back on track. But someone had asked if the third dragon being like Sean Levy, right? He's the third dragon that she talked about in her
mhm.
her text message when she was talking about dragons. So it was Ryan Reynolds, Taylor Swift, and Sean Levy. And somebody said, did Sean even know that Ryan was mocking Justin Baldoni? And I was like, yeah. He
Yeah,
one
he did.
definitely did, but two, in the behind the scenes footage or commentary about Deadpool and Wolverine, there's a scene that they are talking about where Nicepool was in the cornfield with Deadpool and the Dogpool and Wolverine. And this is the scene where he's like, Deadpool is saying like, if anything ever happens to you, like that he would take care of Dogpool.
Mhm.
And Nicepool was like, well, what would happen to me? Or what could happen to me or whatever. And Deadpool goes, "Oh, a lot of things." And it
Mm.
felt very threatening, to be honest.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
especially if Dogpool represents, I mean, everybody has different ideas of what they think Dogpool represents. But my point being is Sean Levy in the back, like in the commentary, behind the scenes commentary, was commenting about the car or something, and then he says some line that says something to the effect, "I'm man enough to admit it."
Whoa. Is that the kinda car do you know, does Justin have that kind of car?
I
It
have no
was a
idea.
very specific even my husband asked, "Is that what Justin drives?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what Justin
Now I
drives," but
wanna know.
yeah.
Um,
I think there's probably a whole lot more little details in there that we don't know about that
mhm,
they know because Justin's probably one of these people that is an open book. Once you get to know him, he probably talked about all kinds of things that they now know about him that
mhm,
were in there that we don't even know. Like,
yeah,
that whole thing was probably completely every single detail. Even the flower shop name is Little
mm,
Sage, they talk about him saging the set, and
mhm,
I have a feeling
everything.
there
He's
are
the
a
one who
whole
shoots
lot
him up.
more. Yeah, I think there's a whole lot more. Anything around Nice Pool, I think
I
is
mean,
is
I
really.
I say all the time that they all, I mean, not that they're gonna be able to bring it in anymore, but just saying, like, if I was them, I would've been like, "Can we show the picture of what Nice Pool was supposed to be looking like?"
Mhm, mhm,
No man bun. It was supposed to be a younger version of Ryan Reynolds back in the day. Okay, here is what it ended up doing. Ended up having
mm,
a man bun on it. The impromptu improvisation he did, where when Nice Pool's coming through the portal and he says, "Oh, what's cafe gratitude up in here or something." I forgot how
mhm,
exactly said it, but what he said was cafe gratitude, which is
mhm,
literally when they were doing the story on Justin Baldoni, which I think was supposed to be originally the cult story, but LA Times turned it to like toxic positivity was the worst thing. That's the best thing they could get. They wrote an article about Justin Baldoni and toxic positivity. And in it, they said that a particular Sony executive that I now think is Josh,
mhm.
had
Yes.
said
Yep,
that
yep. I
working
know.
with him was like working with cafe gratitude.
Yep.
And so I'm like, there are so many things.
There's so many things. There's probably so
There's
many we don't
so
even
many
know.
things.
Yep.
So it's
It's
annoying.
it's it's sick. That
He
that
is
is
really sick.
not mentally well when you're I mean, Ryan's almost
He's
50
very
years old.
vindictive and
Blake's
revengeful.
almost 40 years old. I don't know how old Sean Levy is, but I know he has a daughter in college. So that you're not mentally well if you're at that big old age and this is the kind of garbage that you're doing, that you're spending millions of Disney dollars to do.
Yeah.
And
And
I
then
did hear Ryan saying that it's so funny because he not too long ago, my husband had heard, he told me that he heard that Ryan said that he was writing Deadpool 4, that there's gonna be a Deadpool 4, and I was like, "No," I was so upset. But in that latest video, did you hear what he said about it all of a sudden?
he's just gonna be a
That
background character or something like that.
yes, yes. And he never said that before. He was always, like, big about making another Deadpool, but I think Disney let him know, "We're done with this. You might" he's
Mhm.
got a I heard he has a small part in the upcoming Avengers because that was already in the works. They probably already signed contracts, who knows what. So it was kinda too late to exclude him from that, but I bet that was like, "That's it. You're not getting
I
anything
know
else."
he'll get 5 seconds, if that. No,
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he ends up mostly on the cutting floor.
yeah.
After that, because he really exposed them to and it's not over. Wayfarer can still appeal. They can't appeal so much what they've already lost, like, all the stuff with prejudice, but
Mhm.
what they've come across in Discovery can easily I did a couple of episodes about that. They can easily make a new case, and if I were them, I wouldn't touch New York with it. I would go back to California, and if anything that has survived the statute of limitations, I would file it in California
I
and
mean,
pursue it.
I wonder if they would be tired, though.
Yeah,
I
they
think they just
might.
wanted to clear their name.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean,
think
I
it
don't think
probably
they're
depends.
vindictive like Ryan and them.
Right.
I think the only reason they would do it is if they're like, "These folks will never stop," and which I kinda feel like they won't.
Yeah, me too. And I
Alri
think it has we'll see how this case ends up, and then that,
Yeah,
I think, might determine where they
yeah,
go with it.
yeah,
But I think
we'll
Jen
see.
Abel I would love to see Jen Abel, file criminal charges against Stephanie for what she did to her.
Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. Um, I think that's gonna be a very interesting case.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so the next question is, from Faye Andy. It says, "Did Blake ever manage to find out who she is outside of the Costco subpoenas?"
If she did, I don't know.
I mean,
I'll
I
never
I
know.
actually didn't know
Yeah.
what this question meant. Is this an inside thing?
No, I think she mean or the way I took it, I don't know if I've got it wrong, but the way I understand is we were able to quash the Costco subpoena. But I nicknamed it
Oh!
the bulk.
Oh,
Yeah. I
okay.
nicknamed it buy one, get 106 free Costco bulk subpoena. So I think that's
Oh!
what she's referring to. But I think because we were afraid that we got that well, not quashed, we got that withdrawn, but we were all worried that she would come from another place and get it. So did
Mm.
she? If she did, I don't know. They
Okay.
also have ex-CIA working for them. So if they did, I don't know about it.
Mm. That would be really that's the thing that I find disturbing, though, is, like, how she did it in such a way that people couldn't really figure it out, like, people were wondering if it was a scam and wasn't sure
Mhm.
if it was really
And then
real.
absolutely straight up lied to Andy when he called.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, I tell you, folks not trustworthy.
Mm-mm.
So the next person said is Stick Bat 9 said, "How did you find the immense strength needed to stand up to systemic injustices you have personally faced during the Lively versus Wayfarer case?"
Thing about me, if you want to hurt me or attack me, it's actually very easy. I'm not good at defending myself, but if you come after somebody I care about
Mm,
or somebody that seems not weak on their own, but weak in comparison to who is coming after them, I can be ferocious. And that's what it was. It was seeing other people cry because they
mm,
had been subpoenaed, hearing them we did make a chat. There were multiple chats. I was only in one chat with just 3 other people because even at that, I was still being very, very cautious. I know there were some that involved more. And then I separately messaged with Shirsty and separately messaged with Ken's and Sweet and Salty. But then there was one chat that was 4 of us, and we ended up working on the letters, the motions, and all of that. We were pretty open about how we felt, and I think when I saw these other people, there's just a protective part of my character that when I feel like someone needs protecting, yeah, I changed into someone altogether different than who I
mm,
normally am day to day. And that was the strength that I was doing it for other people
mm,
on my bookshelf. And also it comes back to that strong sense of justice that I feel, especially in stories of I call them David and Goliath stories.
mm,
When I see something like that, it just provokes me, and I feel like I have to do something. It's very, very strange. But on my bookshelf, I have, a bookshelf behind me. It's L-shaped, it's in the corner, and it is full of files because
mm.
I print everything. So there are tons it's mostly Murdoch stuff because there were so many separate legal cases about that, and they were mountainous. They were just mountains of stuff, depositions, all kinds
Voluminous? Just kidding.
voluminous. That is exactly what they are. Voluminous. So it is filled with files, and then there are 2 things on there besides files. One of them is a little statue of Lady Justice with her
Mm,
scales. And it's to remind me of what she represents. And I've said before, she is not blindfolded because she ignores facts. She is blindfolded because she doesn't see, oh, you are more important, you are wealthy, you are powerful, so you
mhm,
matter more.
mhm,
And so it's a reminder of that, of me and justice, and then I have a gavel. A gavel and the little thing you strike on it. That's and I feel like those are the decorative things in my room, and that tells you what's important to me.
mm,
And, that's what motivates me of everything. This was wrong. This was wrong. It was unjust, and it was legally not sound, and it needed to be fought against, and so that's what it was, and it like I told you in one of the comments yesterday that it went beyond at the time I was subpoenaed, there were only 43 of us, and that was already 43 too many. And then it ended up 107, but even when it was just 43, and I say just compared to 107, because 43 is a lot. But I was also considering that this goes beyond this case. If he allows it in this case, this can be used over and over again. And just like it was in this case, it's going to affect women. And I wanted something done about it. And so that was the motivating force behind it. And that's why I spoke to the judge the way I spoke. That's not me. That's not me normally. And had I been the only one subpoenaed, I don't know what I would have done. But I wouldn't have had this power
mm.
that I had because there were other victims.
I always wondered too if it was more than 107 because when they wrote that
Mhm.
letter, they said so far
Yeah. And
107.
she was still
So I was
going
like,
because
so far.
'cause they probably knew she was still going because they would see it all, but, they if they didn't have a reason to post it, they couldn't just post it. But I think they found a reason to let us know it was 107. But yeah, at that point, he had extended her time to keep using it. So we that's a good point.
It
We
might
don't
be
know.
more.
We
It
don't know.
might be more. We don't know. Oh, by the way, we have 30 minutes left. Do you think it's possible? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
I think so,
8
because
more
some of these
questions.
are real simple, and I'll
Okay.
be more concise.
Okay. I mean, I took us I took us on a big old
I
rant.
enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed the ride.
I mean, like, it was me that probably took 20 minutes. Anyways, okay, okay, get it together. Get it together. Okay. So next question is from Ralph 1833, who's a bocce buddy, and Ralph wants to know: does Cassidy have anything in the pipeline post this lawsuit and the Murdaugh murders?
I do. I kind of already talked about this a little bit in a previous question too, that, I still have to go back and finish the rise and fall of the Murdaugh. I called them the Murdaugh Mafia because I got tired of them being called Murdaugh Dynasty. I'm like, a
Mm,
dynasty, there's a measure of, oh, what's the correct word? Not Not honor, but you think of it as like a ruling class when you say the word dynasty, and they weren't
mm,
that. They were
mhm,
in a tiny part of South Carolina that the rest of the world knew nothing about. So, like, they refer to the Kennedys as a dynasty. Okay, yeah, he was actually president of the United States. His brother was attorney general. His other brother was a senator. Okay, you can call them a dynasty, but this family, I felt like they do not deserve to be called a dynasty. So I called them
mm,
more of what they were like was Murdoch Mafia. I want to
mm,
finish that. And then that case I told you about dying to be loved, about
mm.
women, that's an ongoing situation. And I feel like that is very, very important. I've also bought several books about the Peterson case, Lacey
Lacey?
Peterson. Yeah, Lacey. There was one written by his either step or half sister. There was another one, a really thick one written by like a true crime author, and then one written by her mother. I can't remember if I have a fourth one as well.
Mm,
Because I was gonna do like a real big deep dive in her story. I will probably continue to do that dying to be loved story, but to say for sure what I'll be doing when I look at a case, it can't just be, "Oh, this is the big case that's out there right now." If it doesn't speak to my heart, I I have no interest in it. If I'm interested in it, I can hyper focus, I can sit here at my desk, researching for 20 hours without eating, drinking, or anything, and, but that's what it takes for me to care enough to devote that much of my time. So, to be able to tell you right now a case that I know I'll be interested in, I was following that Hawaii case, and there is a case that she was the latest one that I did in my Dying to Be Loved series. Her name is Suzanne, or was Suzanne Simpson.
Mm,
She lived in Texas, and I went through what was known about the investigation. Her husband, most like they've not found her body to this day,
mm,
but he was arrested because there was enough, um, other evidence that pointed to him, and I outlined it. It's like a crazy story. He was caught on cameras with what was probably her body wrapped in a tarp in the back of his pickup
mm.
truck,
Oh,
go into the hardware store, go into a gas station, going to get a sandwich, and then went out into, like, a forest area and came back without the tarped object in the back of his truck. And so that was probably when he was disposing of her. I follow one of her daughters on Instagram, and she's
mm,
just brokenhearted, just absolutely
mm.
brokenhearted. And that trial was actually supposed to start in January, but it got postponed because the state was given a lot more evidence that they needed a lot more time to consider, and so the judge granted it. And so I am gonna follow that one just because I did so much at the beginning of it, and I wanna see it through, for her daughter's sakes. She has 3 daughters that were left behind, one of them quite young, elementary school age, and it just makes me so upset. And so I will finish that's one I can tell you for sure that I will be following up on. The rest will be just what comes up that speaks to me.
I hear that. Okay. So next question is SS Web 4003 wants to know if you had to choose one place to visit in a lifetime, where would it be?
That one has no answer because I have already been to most
Oh,
of the places that I dreamt of going to. Of course, I haven't seen everything there is to see. Just last this past winter, I spent a couple of months through Germany mostly and
mm,
followed the romantic road, but I still wanna do a river but it was too cold, a river cruise up the Rhine. So, before that, I went through big parts of England, big parts of France. I went through most of Belgium and parts of Italy, but Italy's huge, it's gonna take forever. I've been all over Asia, but there's still places there I haven't been. I haven't been to Singapore or Malaysia, Indonesia,
oh,
or Thailand, but I've been
oh,
to
that's
China,
a good one.
Japan, and Korea.
I love
Yeah.
Taiwan. I went to Taiwan
Oh, I haven't
once.
been to Taiwan.
Oh,
So
so
I've been
love it.
to Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, but, yeah, I haven't been to Taiwan. I have been to Taiwan, but it doesn't count because I was only in a layover in the airport. That's all I saw
Yeah,
was the
no, it's
airport.
a fantastic place. I got to be there for 7 days. I wish I was there for at
Oh,
least 14. It's
yeah,
kinda like, aside from Japan, like, I loved, Taiwan's public transportation, and I always say public
yeah,
transportation changes lives because it just opens up the
it
world to
does.
you. So
Yeah, and you can kinda tell a country by its public transportation.
Mhm. It's a good one, it's a good
Yeah.
one. It's amazing.
I know the one in Hong Kong is really, really efficient,
Oh, I have not been
and
in.
Japan one is immaculate.
Mhm, mhm. And they're learning to be more accessible. There's
Mhm,
more elevators and things of that nature that I saw.
mhm.
Okay, next question. Jay Wizzy 2436 wants to know what is your favorite dish?
I am a foodie, so that one was really hard, and I cook
Mhm.
too. I really like to cook and make some fancy dishes, but, for a while before I started doing the legal stuff, I was gonna do, a thing where I would take pictures of the food in the different countries I was visiting, and then I would come home and try to replicate it, and I did start doing some of that, and but I think I've had some really, really fancy food, I've had some not fancy food, I've had all different types, but I was like, I think it would boil down to and it's not fancy. Well, it's kinda fancy, but it's not what you would think of as like, "Oh, this is a Michelin star meal." Chicken fricassee from a certain restaurant in Paris.
Mm,
It is so delicious. I love French food. I love European food, just about everything. Well, England doesn't have a whole well, they don't consider themselves Europe anymore with the Brexit, but, they don't have that they've got meat pies, which are great, the pastry's flaky, delicious, and they've got the fish and chips, which I always eat when I'm there, but, like, Germany, France, the other places, the food is just so good. But
mm,
this what I love about French food is that it is so rich. Their
mm.
butter, oh my goodness, best in the world. Their well, I don't know, ties with Irish butter maybe, and cream. They are not shy about using cream, and this chicken fricassee is just swimming in cream, and they put
Mm,
lemon thyme on top of it, and I had never had that before. I'd had plenty of regular thyme and Mexican thyme and, different ones, Greek or no, I'm thinking of oregano with the Greek one. I had never tasted it before, and they had that sprinkled on top, and then they've got the side of the vegetables and stuff. I have pictures of it, I'll have to post later. And then, of course, you always get baguettes with everything you eat. And they have different flour than we have. The gluten is different. Their baguettes and their croissants, they melt in your mouth. Where, like, the ones that are made here, they're kinda a little rubbery. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you bite and
mm,
it pulls, it stretches a little bit. Theirs doesn't, it just melts in your mouth.
mm.
But this chicken fricassee I had to ask the waiter, I'm like, "What is this herb?" It tastes like lemon. You know, when you grate a little lemon rind over the top of something, like the lemon zest? It tastes
Mm.
like that, but with the greens flavor to it. It is so refreshing and delightful. And so I found a recipe when I came home, and I worked on that until it tasted like how I remembered it. But anytime I'm in Paris, I go to that same restaurant and eat that chicken fricassee. I've made it for friends too, they really liked it, but, yeah, that's my favorite dish.
Nice. I've never had that. I don't even
It
know
was
what it
the
looks
first time
like
I'd
or
had
what
it.
it's like. Wow. It
Yeah.
made an impression.
Oh, it did. It really did.
The next one is from Lauren, and she wants to know, do you ever stop making pie?
I will never stop making pie. But do you know what's
Is that
funny?
an inside thing?
Oh, yeah, because I made, one of my shorts is a peach pie I made. And
Mm.
so, yeah, she saw it, and, yeah, she's always talking about pie, so I'm gonna have to make her a pie one of these days. I will never
I
stop
mean, are
making
you
pie.
going to New York? And you can make her a
I'll have to
pie in
take
New
her
York.
one. Yeah, I'll freeze one and take it. But, the funny thing is that I don't like fruit pies. Apple, cherry, blueberry, peach, none of them. I love to make them, but I don't like 'em 'cause I don't like cooked
Mm.
fruit. I love fresh fruit. Oh my goodness, in the summer, we eat so much fresh fruit. I just set up my salad garden. It's herbs and spinach that, like, through the whole summer, I go out and I just take cuttings off of everything and well, actually, I shouldn't say me, my husband does it more often than I do. He makes it for me, but he goes out and I go clip them and I give them to him, and then he throws it all together in a salad. So I just did that today. But cooked fruit, I've never liked. So when I was a kid and we'd all go to my grandma's, everybody loved she made all the pies. She made apple, blueberry, cherry, but I didn't like the fruit pies, so she would make me a pumpkin pie because
Mm.
I love pumpkin pie, and that's the only one I would eat. So I would always have a pumpkin pie there. But, yeah, it's funny, I like to make the fruit pies, but I don't like them. I usually make
Well,
them
that's
and give
probably better for you in the long run. Like, it won't be tempting to consume it all or something.
Yeah, yeah. I love the crust, but I don't like the cooked mushy fruit.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I got lost for a second because the next person's name, it's like I met with her for like the phone conversation
Mhm.
that I had, and she told me how to say her name properly. 'Cause I used to call her Theon, and it's Theon, Theon. I
Yeah, oh,
gotta
that's
say, so I've
pretty.
gotta say it right.
It's pretty.
So I got lost in the sauce for a second because I looked over to my right and I was like and then it got my attention, so I'm sorry at that
That's
tail
okay.
end of your answer, so I gotta rewatch what you said at that tail end of that
It
answer
wasn't
because
that
I
in
got my brain got distracted by looking at anyways.
That's okay.
Sorry. Okay.
It was just
So the
pie talk.
next question is Theon. Oh, wait, no. I said Theon again. Theon. The next question is Theon, a bocce bestie. Have you ever listened to the tape cassette audiobook by Janet? Is that Ivanovich? Janet by Janet Ivanovich. One for the money.
No, and I meant because I saw this question earlier, I meant to look it up and see what that was so that I would know what I was talking about, but it's not familiar to me. I don't think I've ever heard it. Or do you know the significance of the question of what the book is?
No, I mean, let me just check real quick what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
I meant to look it up and I didn't.
One for the money. It's a what number one New York Times bestseller. It's Stephanie Plum has lost her job, her car, her marriage, and is about to lose her apartment. If she doesn't raise some cash quick, what a girl to do. Bond enforcement, of course. No experience necessary, especially since her sleazy cousin Vinny owns the bail bonds company and can easily be blackmailed. I don't know what the
Hmm.
I don't know what the
So it
significance
doesn't
is.
relate to this case or anything. I was wondering what
Yeah,
the
means I don't know.
No, I've definitely never heard of that. Yeah, if you find out why, just let me know, and it sounds interesting. Maybe I
Yeah,
will. I do have Audible, so I can select that one when I finish the one I've got now.
there you go.
Yeah,
And then
sorry, I don't know that one. Theon. Is Theon?
uh, uh, yeah,
Oh,
Theon.
yeah, Theon. Okay.
The like, yeah, Theon, like OWN, Theon instead of Theon. Ah, I I've been staying in wrong this whole time. Actually, when I first saw it, I thought it was the one. So,
Yeah, I think that's what when I saw it, I that's what I guessed.
yeah, so for a really long time, I called her the one, and then Theon, and now Theon. Okay. So, oh, we're gonna make it. This is good. So the
Yeah.
next question is Whitney in the Garden asked, "Have you ever considered reading audiobooks or doing ASMR?"
I actually have an audiobook on Audible. It's
You
it's not
do,
Yeah,
but
it's
we
not
won't
my
know
book.
because it's
No,
right
no,
because
it's
it would
not
probably be middle name.
it's not my book. It was written by one of the jurors of the Murdoch murder trial. She co-wrote it with a woman, Shayna Hirsch, who's a teacher
Mm.
in South Carolina, and yes, she would come into my chat when I spoke on the Murdoch case, and, yeah, I ended up narrating it for them. I have on my channel, 2 interviews that I did with them,
Mm.
and then I narrated the book, so it's
But your real name is not connected to it.
no, it's under Cassidy, Cassidy
Okay.
Open. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's my pinned post on X, if you follow me on
Oh, okay.
X. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And ASMR, I don't know that I would do actual ASMR, but I've talked about doing some of the old books that no longer have copyrights, the public domain books. I've thought about reading some of those because some people have said they like to fall asleep listening to my stuff. But sometimes I
Mhm.
get kind of feisty and I might wake people up if they do that. So I've thought about reading some of those old books and just putting it out there as to fall asleep to
Mm.
or something. Yeah. At some point, I may other people have said, "Oh, can you do affirmations?" And I've thought
Mm.
about doing that. So, who knows down the road. I always have a million ideas and not enough time.
I hear that. Okay. So the final question is from Al underscore Ainsley that says,
Oh,
"Do you
okay.
think that Ryan Reynolds is mad that Ryan Gosling is a much more talented and much more popular Canadian Ryan?"
This one cracked me up the first time I read it. Ainsley, I recognize, Ainsley. I'm sure he's mad at everybody that's more talented or more handsome or more anything than he is. I think he's that kind of person. I think him and Blake both are. It's so funny, Blake made a post one time years ago, I forgot where I saw it, and I laughed so hard because she was talking about how she loves Beyoncé and Taylor Swift because they don't feel intimidated by other women who are powerful. She's talking about herself,
Yep.
that she doesn't intimidate these and I'm thinking, "Girl, what kind of universe do you live in that you think you rank up there with Beyoncé and Taylor Swift?" But I
But
think
Taylor
her
did say, "You like me."
well, I thought it was Blake that said that to her.
Nope, it was her.
Was
That
it?
which always confused me. Yes. That was the one line in that big old bulk
I think
where it
my
was like
brain
Blake. The one thing was Taylor Swift, and then all these other
oh,
things
how
were
funny.
all
I
Blake.
think my brain would not accept that was
Because it
Taylor.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make the math wasn't mathing.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
I know. I was like, "What? You're Taylor Swift. Why
Yeah.
why do you care what pl t" I mean, not to say that, like, that someone who's not I'm not saying that either where it's
No,
like,
I know what
"Oh,"
you mean. I know what
but
you
it's
mean.
like, "What?"
Yeah, there are levels of celebrity. So
Yeah.
not as a person, but as a celebrity status. That's
Mhm.
wild. That's wild
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as Ryan Gosling goes, because I thought that Ryan had done the Deadpool dance himself. I found out during the course of this trial that it was somebody else hired to put on the uniform and dance. But Ryan Gosling can dance, he can sing, he can act, he's cuter, he's all of the things that Ryan is not. I
He
noticed
was,
in
like,
that
part of Mickey Mouse Club.
he used to dance and sing
Mhm.
with Britney, but,
Yep.
and Christina,
And
but
Justin
and yeah,
Timberlake.
yeah, Timberlake, yeah. What was I gonna say? In
So
that
sorry.
that interview no, that's okay. That interview with no, because my mind went crazy because I was like, "Justin Baldoni wasn't on there because 'cause I'm so used to him being the Justin, and then I was like, oh, yeah, the other Justin." Um, in Ryan's latest interview, that one he just did on the Today Show, he
Mhm.
has been Botoxed to the hilt, except I took a screenshot of it. 'Cause the very center of his forehead, it looks like they missed the Botox. There's some weird creasing or oddness when he raises his eyebrows. It's so funny. I'll have it in my next live because I screenshotted. I'm like, "This looks so weird." He obviously because the rest of his face is all of a sudden all smooth and shiny, and his eyes look a little bit bigger, but then the dead giveaway is that center of his forehead that they didn't do a good job injecting it or whatever. I don't know what happened, or if it's I don't know, does it slide around in your face?
I
I don't
don't
know,
know.
but, that tells me that he's been reading all the comments about how we've been I know I, for one, have been saying that he's aged since this or lawsuit,
So
he's
much.
aged like milk and left
So
in the
much.
trunk in August. You know, it's just so much.
It's wild. I was
Mhm.
looking at pictures, I'm like, "Whoa, that's what guilt does to you."
Yeah, truly. The evil is yeah, working from the inside out now.
Yeah. Well, Cassidy, they're gonna have a twofer. So they're gonna have this regular one that they're watching right at this moment, which is the 17 questions with Bocce version of this, and probably I was gonna say a bonus cut, but it might just be like almost close to unedited cut, where it's
Mm.
like I might cut out a few things, but it's still pretty much gonna be probably like in order to get it all out is probably gonna be the uncut version,
Well, the 2 of us
minus a few things.
I think the 2 of us have the longest lives of all the content
Oh my
free.
Cassidy, I had a live that was 11 hours long.
11? I
Yes.
was there for your 6. I wasn't there for the
Oh,
whole thing because I joined I think it was, like, halfway through. You were already halfway through when I realized you were live. But, yeah, it went to 6 hours. I didn't know
I
you
tell
had
you,
11.
and here
Oh,
I
wow.
am now being good and trying to be off by like, "I need to sleep at night."
Good for
How
you. I wish
times
I
have
could do
changed.
wow, that's wild.
Yeah. Oh, so wild that I used to not try to sleep early, but now I do.
Mm,
Anyways, with
it's so
that
much better
said,
for you.
the final question for you is what platforms can people follow or support you on?
Of course, here on YouTube, and then I have an Instagram account, and that's in my name. There are other I used to go by a different name that was named after 90 Day Fiancé,
Mm,
one of the funny storylines from the early days of that, and then I later changed it, but Cassidy O'Connell had already been taken, so
mm.
I forget what it actually is. I had to put an underline or something in there somewhere? I don't remember, and then I'm
For which
also
platform?
what's that?
For which platform was that?
For Instagram?
Oh, for Instagram.
Yeah, and then the 55% I always had, and that was also linked to the name that I used to have for 90 Day Fiancé, it was all part of, like, one of the big inside jokes in that community, and then I ended up keeping it and changing it because when I started doing the Murdoch stuff, it was I would say my intro was, "You've heard this, you've heard that, but what you haven't heard," and then I would say, "The other 55% because we don't know the half of it."
Mm.
So that's what my 55 is now. I kept the 55 but changed it. So on Instagram, the 55 is still red. I need to put my icon on there now. But on Twitter, I'm also also Cassidy on there, Cassidy O'Connell. I changed that name as well because it used to be something else.
Okay, Cassidy O'Connell on YouTube,
Yeah, I'm
Instagram, and
this
Twitter?
yeah, it's the same everywhere.
Okay. All right. That's great. So, folks, if you haven't followed Cassidy yet on all of those platforms, please do. The next 17 questions with Bocce will be with Ashley Brianna Eve. So keep your eyes open for that one when it comes out. Um, and if there is anything that you enjoyed thoroughly through this whole 17 questions with Bocce, feel free to like this video. And again, subscribe to me if you haven't already. And again, follow Cassidy, subscribe to Cassidy if you have not done so as well. Okay, have a great one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.